And now I'm and then have to get the.
I used to.
Yeah. Get everybody. Then I log on. Here we go. No, right? Yeah, just don't log in. Oh.
That's on 9 o'clock.
I just gathered from down the hall.
This new directors get nicer.
Fancy beers.
The one thing I read about the chairs, they just keep going.
Airport, and then there's like a flight 24 hours a day. Yeah.
I do think we should wait.
Do we want to get? All right.
You want to chair?
He texted like
No.
3 minutes ago saying he was on his
I
way.
didn't put my place.
We're gonna get started now. Join us today. That would be a good thing.
Lab's going to do things.
You can go back to.
Does that mean I can get up out of my seat?
Yes.
Yes, he told me to go take your seat. He did. Wait, yes, sir. Yeah.
First 5 minutes are calisthenics, right?
Right? Absolutely.
Right.
And you did at 5 a.m. this morning.
I was a night sick leave at the gym, so. Where'd you go?
And I'm sure the dogs will.
Yes.
That's you to join us.
Morning, Don.
Hi, I apologize. I never drive down campus at this time of day, ever. I had no idea.
Oh, please.
None. Those parents are crazy.
We are.
Yes.
You are. You will kill for a place to pull up and throw that child out of the car.
And if you walk, you'll get run over. So either way, you're screwed.
You throw all those. Hi.
Good morning, Dawn.
Ready? We are ready.
Good morning, everybody. If you are watching online or if you are in the audience, do not touch that dial. This is March 1st, 9 o'clock in the morning, 2024. And this is the beginning of today's organizational meeting for the new board of directors. The only reason I'm here today is to call the meeting to order, which I am doing right now. And I will be leaving and turning the meeting over to Charles, who's the vice president, and we will proceed with the election of officers and other business today. It's been a pleasure. Good luck. And I'm out of here.
Thanks,
Cindy.
You're welcome.
All right, good morning, everyone. So we will start right now with the first item on the agenda, which is adopting the agenda. So do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved.
Seconded.
Make a motion. And the appointment of the committee liaisons.
On that?
Which leads?
Impact.
Oh, the advisor, MPAG. I'm sorry. I thought I heard the word impact. So I'm sorry.
The only reason I wanted to maybe keep it on there and maybe as it's, I think, to the bottom of the list. So my thought process, just as we look and see kind of who has the committee appointments and officer appointments, just to make sure we're workload balancing correctly. Again, if it stays the same, great. If it doesn't, it's just something that's there. We can talk about it. We can decide from there, but.
I was thinking because the members aren't changing from the group, we should keep the same liaisons to keep the group intact since it's already halfway through their process.
Sure.
Changing the liaisons might be not fair to the rest of the group.
Dumb question. Do we have to, and this is a point of order question, but do we need to reinstate the same liaisons again? Or does that automatically follow through? Anyone know?
It does not automatically fall
So we
through.
would need to elect the same liaisons again.
So we do need to keep it on there.
I would think we need to keep it there just to elect make it official.
Okay.
But yeah, Katie, I think the note is that I think it does make sense to keep the same people there. But as we talk today and where things get aligned, then we can figure out, does it make sense to keep the same people there or change one, change both, et cetera? So.
Okay.
But actually, it doesn't make a difference if it's A or K. The point being is what Katie said. This group has been moving forward with Jared and I. We are still on the board. We're not like members that weren't reelected. We had a meeting last night. They're moving forward, and for new liaisons to come on, I think just like they don't even want new members because we've lost a couple of members along the way.
Yeah.
They don't want the boat rocked. So Jared does the recaps because I don't do recaps. And we had a very healthy conversation last night. They went into the room privately. They worked. I think it's just doesn't make a difference.
I don't think anybody's
That's fair.
arguing that at
The-
this point, but we just.
Again,
need
just,
to-
we'll affirm it and that's fine. Again, kind of the thought process, let's just at least go through the exercise and whatnot. All right, so the one thing that I think, do we need to talk about the audit?
No, the finance committee requested to pull that back forward, and they will make a recommendation to this newly seated board. And hopefully we will have that on a March agenda.
Okay,
The finance committee is
It's
the 6th.
perfect. Okay, so then we're good with impact. Any modifications?
We also, only because we had a brief conversation before, are we, so we don't get to the end at the last minute, going to extend the committees to the April instead of March?
we were gonna do that at the March meeting.
Yeah, let's,
So we're good with March.
yeah, let's press through. So I'm gonna call the question. So
Okay.
all in favor, of adopting the agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Welcome, introductions, and overview. So I will keep this very short so we can dive right into the election of officers. As Cindy said, this is our organizational meeting. This is our first meeting as a new board for 2024, 2025. So welcome to the new directors, Andrew Duganzik, Don McDonald, Eric Opegard, Katie Schultman, Jared Wise, Celia McFadden, and myself are carryovers. So you'll be dealing with us again this year. So really the point of this meeting is to organize, to just elect our officers, elect our liaisons, work through the meeting cadence. There's not a lot of business that's going to be discussed. There shouldn't be any business discussed today. Just real high level kind of strategy. Where are we going from here? So to that end, that's really it. We just dive right into the election of officers. So let's start with president. So any nominations for president?
I would like to place my name.
Jared? I would like to nominate Don. Any others? All right, so we have Jared and Don. Just for those at home, this is a secret ballot allowed under CROA and Florida law, I believe. So it will be done through secret ballot. You're all officers.
Do we do more, just president first?
Just president.
President, then president will take over. So once president is appointed, they will then take over the meeting.
Did you want to do any statements at all, or?
Statements, yes. Any statements, comments? How do you,
Oh, from the candidates?
if you'd like?
Oh, well, of course.
Jesus, I thought we were done with it.
Yeah.
All right. You want to say 2 minutes?
Yes, I will
All right,
Won't even take 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I've served on the board for a very long period of time, in the past 5 years. Got a lot of history, and I ran the meetings during one of our biggest crisis periods, which was the 08 financial crisis, when Celebration's numbers were in trouble. The financials were not particularly good. And also, oh, thank you for the microphone. Hello, everyone at home. I'm sorry, I'm a little hoarse. I had a bug on Tuesday, and so I'm not sick anymore. I'm not infected. I had a stomach.
1 minute done.
And so anyway, and also I got 1,001 votes, which no one's ever done. So I think I have a bit of a mandate from the community, and that's my comment.
Jared?
I think I've had consistent leadership all year and have demonstrated a fair and balanced approach to things. I don't have any conflicts of interest with anything. I have a trust and respect from a majority of the community. And I've shared a plan how to reduce the power of the presidency to more even out the board. So those would be some of my objectives.
May I add an addendum? I agree with him on that last part.
Okay, noted. All right, cast your ballots, and Mr. Hudspeth, may we ask you to please? Is
Do
every-
you
is-
count everything, Gary?
Are we?
Okay, that's good to know.
Are we all, okay, is everyone good with that? Just Devin, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
So we can see.
We fold.
It's like church.
Yeah, it is like the, put money in the basket. if you-
I think if you put a 20 in there, they're gonna look bad.
Yeah.
Gary?
Okay,
Oh, that's okay.
hang on.
Well, now we know.
Oh, my.
Oh, but see, now you know who it is. So, you can't,
Make it-
it's a secret fold,
All right.
you know.
All right, so we will wait to see how that shakes out. We can meet in over to.
Say it's a majority.
Yes.
Okay. He's ready to start. Get ready for it. Secretly, majority voted for Don McDonald.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
I yield it to you.
All right. All right, we're gonna move along then in the voting for officers. And the next up, of course, is the person who will take over if I'm not here. That would be the vice president. And do I have any nominations for vice president for the CROA board? I nominate current vice president.
Appreciate that.
He's done a good job. Any other nominations?
Yeah, I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Okay,
My fourth
And-
year on the board, I think I can figure out how to run a meeting.
our two candidates, Celia McFadden
I'm
and
not done
Charles.
talking.
Oh, I was gonna give you your talking part. Ready?
Prepare
Talking
yourself, I'll
part.
interrupt a lot. I think I can run the meeting if you're not here. That's really all it takes is to run the meeting and make sure the emails are answered and that's it.
And Charles.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the last board, and I appreciate what you said about a good job, but I think it was a tough year with the last board. And when I came into the vice president role, I hope to kind of learn a little bit more and I guess kind of do a little bit more things, I think, with the role and really kind of shadow. And I think now with you in the role, in my opinion, I think this is another opportunity for me to really learn. Someone who's done the role, been around a long time, sat on multiple boards, and will the opportunity to do it again.
All right, anyone else have any comments, questions? Then the voting is now officially open. Please mark your ballots.
But also, I don't want to change my signature line.
The voting is already closed.
Sorry.
Too late.
Point of order.
We're gonna use point of order. Well, actually, I hope we don't. Not contagious.
That was my favorite phrase, was point of order.
The majority has voted for Charles.
Charles. That's Charles. Thank you. All right, now this position, I truly, because I was once this, is the most important position on the board because our most important job is protecting assets and the money of the homeowners. And I really believe this job requires a special skill set, something that doesn't come along very often in most people because, well, most people hate dealing with numbers.
Point of order.
Sorry, point of order.
Oh, really? Did I? Oh,
Yeah.
see, I'm not feeling well. Secretary,
I thought-
this is also a very important thing. Because secretaries keep track of everything and sign papers.
It was because treasurer was on
The
the,
treasurer was on my stack.
so.
I
That's-
apologize. I had literally had this on.
That is a
top.
management.
It's all your fault.
It always is.
No, it's my fault. No, that was truly my fault. I should have looked at the paper, not the papers. Anyway, so nominations for the secretary of the board, the person who keeps track of the paper. Like this.
I'd like to nominate
I'll
Katie.
Nominate myself.
Celia,
again
okay,
For the
and
third year.
I'd like to nominate Katie.
you'd like to nominate Katie?
And
All right,
I'd nominate Eric.
and you nominate Eric. Oh,
Withdraw my nomination. Go ahead.
You don't have to accept it.
Yeah, you don't have to accept it.
yeah, you do. No. All right, so now it's down to Eric and Celia, ladies and gentlemen. Do either of the candidates have a word for us? Just a word.
What kind of word do you want?
I don't know.
Adjective, please.
Do you like answering emails?
So,
Oh.
Do you like signing papers?
yeah, I served as secretary previously. It's an administrative role.
Same thing.
Yeah, so.
All right, that's the comment. Let's all vote, Joe. Sir.
Never want to rush you.
No, you can rush us, please. Hmm.
Double check. Yep. The majority have voted for Eric.
And finally, last but not least, the most important one. I truly believe this. I think that keeping track of the money is so critical because one of the things that often takes down HOA boards and boards on any organization, horrible financial oversight, where things get missed and slip through the cracks. You need someone who's very detail oriented. And so do I have here any nominations for the treasurer of the because I will nominate Andrew because of his incredible financial skill set. Any others? No one wants the job, Andrew, I think.
They could then.
So by acclamation, Andrew is the treasurer of the board, and you can just stay, Gary.
No, I'm gonna walk around to my seat.
Oh. All right, moving on. I'm not going to speechify on this one. This should be obvious. The importance of a code of conduct in a group that is charged with administering and maintaining the homeowner values of a community as large and valuable and important to not just us, but to a big chunk of the world that know of us is contingent upon is it requires that we find a way, even if we disagree vehemently, to get along, to treat each other with respect and to treat our residents with a massive degree of respect. Even if they're angry, which they often are, or they wouldn't be coming to us. They deserve the respect of this board and of our staff that we employ, and we, each of us, deserve the respect of each other. Now, I have served on boards with heated disagreements, but in the end, we disagreed. Dave knows. We disagreed, but we remained friends and we remained respectful of one another. And that's why I think that this part of the agenda is so crucial. And I'd like to ask our executive director to explain what the code of conduct is. What is it written? Where is it? Let's see it. Let's hear what it is.
Do we get copies of this?
It was
In our
in your packet that was
Is it
emailed out
printed?
yesterday. I just printed a copy for
Okay.
Donna to bring it in. So
And we have discussion on it because I have questions and there's some conversation.
Absolutely. I know I would like her to explain it.
Can you bring it up
What
on
is the
screen, too?
expectations have been, and then for us to determine what our code of conduct should be from there in a discussion. So I'd like to hear from her, and then we'll take a motion to because I don't have a copy. I didn't get one.
Yeah, it was in the board packet that we just sent.
Got an agenda.
Is it the updated one from last year, Lauren?
Yes.
Lauren sent it on email yesterday. We received it at 3:23.
You know, I have been having problems with my email. I need to get on the board email.
Oh.
I don't have it.
Okay.
yesterday.
So on your screen, you have the board of directors conduct. You have a general statement as duly elected representatives of the CROA board. Each member of the board of directors owes a fiduciary obligation to the board and members of CROA. Specific rules and standards, it goes to employment. You must publicly disclose the general nature of your current employment and other principal business activities. You owe a duty of due care to carry out your duties in good faith in the manner in which an ordinarily prudent person would do. Personal advantage, you will not use your seat to gain personal advantage. You will disclose and not participate in any votes in which you would have a conflict of interest. Objectivity, you will act impartially and not give preferential treatment to any group or organization, business or individual. Gifts, you shall not solicit or accept anything of value from an individual, group, organization, or business as a result of your position of the CROA board. You owe a duty of confidentiality for board documents, materials, or other information that are designated as such. Use of board property, you shall not use board property or facility for personal use unless such as use is generally available to all other residents. You must standing, which means you don't have covenants, fines, and you are current on your dues. Conduct, you should not engage in incident to carrying out his or her board business in any illegal activity, harassment, or threats towards any individual or group. Discrimination. Responsibilities, each board member shall listen carefully to and respect the opinions of fellow board members, participate actively in meetings, keep well informed, and respect and support the majority decision of the board. Attorney-client privilege information, each board member will return any attorney-client privilege information to the association when you leave the board. And then there's the breach of conduct code that references your bylaws and the resulting actions.
Great, Lauren, thank you very much. So now, would anyone like to move that we adopt and discuss? I'll move.
Okay.
Second, discussion. Jared?
So there's a couple things. One is gifts, because there are gifts that have come to the board. And so I guess want to have a conversation with Graham Manners about this. They're not that anything was, thank you for all your good faith and your good gestures towards us. The holiday board members received a gift. That would violate this code of conduct. And so if we can be attentive to meals and expenses towards board members, while those things are appreciated, just to make sure that it's clear amongst everyone that violates this. So we have to kind of eliminate that stuff. And while it's appreciated, I just think we need to discuss that. Unless we want to set parameters on what that is.
Good point. Anyone else?
No, I agree with what Jared said. I think the other piece around, I think I had a question in regards to good standing, which is I on here. It's understanding, that obviously we need to be in good standing with financial obligations, covenants, and regulations, that sort of thing. Clarity on, does that institute that the moment that a board member is written up that for a covenants violation, that they are in violation?
No,
Okay,
it's when your covenants fines become due
right?
after your appeals period has expired, if the item has not been corrected and or you have not paid the financial obligation.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. And I would like to discuss something that is really not in here. We've got all of the legal stuff and the critical nature of our fiduciary responsibility, which really means that legally we are obligated. It's not optional to do these things to avoid conflicts of interest at all costs. As, before I move on to that though, as the point of gifts, I think I agree with you, Jared, that things could be gifts or gifts. Feeding somebody in the middle of a meeting though.
No, I'm not talking about in the middle of a meeting. I'm talking about outside of.
Outside of meeting, those are gifts.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. That those
We're
are
paying for this. They're not.
right. Right. So I agree. Gifts are gifts. I'd like to go to the issue though of respect in board meetings. And I don't know how we can best address this. And I want to hear from you guys. But the reason for Robert's Rules of Order, they were created because boards argue, because boards fight. And there's nothing in here. We've never really codified what rules we follow.
Well, the bylaws state that we.
The bylaws state it, but the code of conduct doesn't really have anything about how we behave. And because in the bylaws, that's just like, here are your rules. But here we're signing and saying, we agree to do this. I think we should agree to some sort of higher level of respect than we've shown in past boards. We've had a couple of boards that sit here and shout at each other. I mean, I don't see any place at all for shouting. I think if we got to shout, we need to take a break and get the heck out of the room for a minute.
Sure.
Because we do get angry and you can get emotional, but I don't know. This is just me. If you have ideas, I'd love to hear them. But I think this is one of the biggest issues we've faced on the past several boards. I mean, one of which my wife served on, is that there was such vitriol spewed about these tables that it really made it almost impossible to get any work done. And I would really like us to just get a whole lot of work done.
I would say that in my experience last year, the things that upset me the most were when board members were blatantly going against this document that we're.
Okay.
So
That's a good point.
I think it's all relative. If we're not going to enforce this, if we're not going to do anything with this document, because this isn't legally enforceable.
Well, when you sign it, it is.
No, it's not legally.
Technically, I mean.
As what? I mean,
Yeah,
the only repercussion of this is a recall.
A recall. Yeah, you're right. Legally, in terms of the law, I guess you could technically, I'm not an attorney, but you could probably sue someone for breach of contract if you wanted to. But there's no.
I would like to know if that is accurate.
I said, I'm not an attorney, I'm guessing, but when you sign something, you've entered into some sort of a contract, even if it isn't enforceable legally in a court of law, it's still a contract.
Well, it's symbolic too. It's also.
It's symbolic.
It really is. That's
Can
what.
we, and everything you're saying is, I agree with you 100%. And can we discuss this with Tom when we're with him so that he can answer the question and we're not putting Lauren on the spot to answer a
I
legal
think that's a
question?
great idea.
I'll add, Don, that we want to take this away as far as almost putting like a bill of rights, a bill of conduct or something, 10 things that we put together that we agree to of how we proceed. So,
Yeah.
let someone finish their speaking, you don't cut them off, different things of that nature of just kind of putting some parameters out there. We're all adults. I think we can respect each other. We don't have to like each other, but we just have to work together and talk and listen to each other. I think that's unsaid, but if we need to put it to paper, I think we certainly can. The one thing I would add though, under the conduct section, harassment and threats toward individuals and groups. This goes beyond the board and digital as well. So whether it's social media, web pages, anything of that nature, please be careful what you're putting out there and how you're putting it out there. I'm not trying to silence anyone or your ideas and things of that nature, but just make sure you're reading that tweet or post before hitting send, just so we're not poisoning the well from the board that then we push on to the community.
Any other comments?
Can I ask a question?
I'll move to recognize a member of the audience.
Thanks, Eric. So John Gray, I'm the chairperson for the tech committee. So we sat in numerous meetings last year in this room with accusations of people having associations, relationships with outside organizations, influencing their votes, right? I know there are accusations, but right here in the room, people were accused of that from the board. With the rules that were just read, and if those accusations again come up, what is the procedure also with that? I think that's very important. A lot of
Again,
residents
and
last
this-
year were
this is-
very upset.
I
with
think the idea, and would you like to change your motion to table this until we can ask some of these questions of our attorney?
I would motion to refer, can I motion to refer this to exec session? Is that would be,
Well, would that be, I don't know. I don't want to refer it to exec session.
well, for Slayton,
asking legal advice about enforceability and other,
But it's not, but really 720 says pending current or pending litigation or personnel. This is
but
neither.
then you also have attorney-client privilege when you're asking legal advice about your attorney that also goes into executive session.
I fear slippery slope.
If you want to have it as a public discussion, that's completely fine. It's up to you.
But Don, we could bring it up then at the second part
Absolutely.
of our
At the
meeting
second part of
today.
our meeting today.
We can say that
Can we table it for that? Because
So I'm looking
technically
to-
it's not executive session, but this is a pet peeve of mine. That we as a board, at some point, but we've got too much on our plate today. I would like to discuss.
All right,
Anyway, so there's a motion, a second to table till the meeting.
I seconded it.
Seconded it, you seconded it. So we'll table. Moving along to appointee of
We need to call the question.
Oh, no, on a table?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was an automatic on a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, joint committee members. Joint committee is the CJC, the Celebration Joint Committee, which is a combination of, ready for the alphabets? CROA, Celebration Non-Residential Owners Association, and CROA, the Celebration Residential Owners Association, just part of the disparate, confusing, and often frustrating governmental structure of the non-town of Celebration.
They all have the Len C in it.
They do. That's the commonality. That's where it ends. Osceola County. Yeah, okay, we're good. Any nominations for appointment to the joint committee, which represents both groups in conversation about joint issues?
Can someone tell me what the current state of CJC is? Because.
Yes. So, on 2 occasions in the last 2.5 years, TCC, the Celebration Company, has stated that they were going to step away from the
Right.
CJC and pass off their seats to CROA and CROA. That has not happened yet. The last time that happened was in middle of last year, I believe, and they said we're out in 30 days, and I have heard nothing else since, even after following up. So I think there's still some discussion on the Celebration Company side. So as things stand now, the Celebration Company has 3 seats on the CJC board and CROA has 2. If for some reason, the way the documents read now, if TCC steps away, then CROA would have a 3rd seat and CANOA would get 2 seats.
And the overarching, CJC for the most part is still mainly just an administrative body. I mean, the only time that I remember that they've gotten involved in some things historically was in major issues between entities. So like between, like what happened with the town center condos, for example.
That is
You know,
correct.
that
CJC
type of
also
thing.
owns you also own the water tower, which is which is out to RFP for repair. It's mainly a pass-through in terms of, paying bills that are commonly shared between CANOA and CROA. It's a net zero entity.
Our management company contract is through CJC, the insurance is through.
CJC,
So
yeah.
there's that.
And also there are costs that, there's a cost sharing that CANOA and CROA have certain administrative functions that they share.
That is
And
correct.
therefore they have a cost sharing agreement between the two.
That is correct. So currently, the cost sharing for CANOA is capped at CPI, the October of the year before the upcoming budget. So right now, where you used to be at a 75-25 split, CROA is now covering about 78% of the CJC costs. And that was an agreement put into place in 2021 with the new management company contract. Half of your town hall staff is paid out of CJC and the other half is purely CROA staff.
I guess just going back to conflict of interest, I do not want to be considered for an appointment for this. My employment is Bank of America, and that could be seen in various ways if I was on this board, the CJC. So just withdrawing me out of the running.
I'm not understanding what you mean by that. But you're employed by Bank of America.
I just don't want any appearance that there's any type of push or anything movement from any conversations with the non-owners versus CROA overseeing it. So just being safe, something that, I don't want to create something that we don't have to create problems with. So.
I'd like to nominate Eric for CJC. you like me to withdraw the nomination? Only because I assume you have the,
I mean, it was years ago, so it's different now.
I mean, I'll throw my name in.
Well, I name it also.
Who's on it now?
It was Cindy and David.
Cindy,
It
oh,
was in the-
Yeah, we've got a full.
Fine.
Who, Paige, did you say that?
yeah, I'll say that. Paige knows that. So,
Yeah, no,
you know, yeah.
It's part of the adversarial, but you respect each other, correct?
Vinegar, oil,
Yeah.
water.
I don't withdraw, that's fine. I
Makes
accept
a
the
great
nomination.
salad dressing.
Yeah,
Is your name in the hat?
Yes.
I also put my name in.
All right.
For nominees for 2 spots.
3 nominees for 2 spots, right? Jared.
3 nominees for 2 spots.
Actually, Jared, you can have it.
Eric and Jared. All right, congratulations.
Stuff to
we have to
in.
vote.
Yeah, all in favor. No, we don't, because it's an acclamation thing. There are no other candidates.
I don't know.
No, I don't think. Do we have to?
No.
Okay.
Congrats. Now for the Architectural Review Committee, which is one of the most important committees because that really determines how things look. And I'm glad we're going to be discussing today. The nominations for the liaison for the Art Committee, 1 or 2? Just 1?
When we get into liaisons and appointment of committee liaisons, can we discuss what the liaison role actually is in general? Because I think that's changed from what.
You want a general discussion? I think that's a great idea. Lauren, would you mind sharing with us a general discussion of the current liaison role with committees?
Every board member has taken a different tact in the recent years in terms of their liaison role. Some are actively engaged in the conversation at committees. Some take a more passive approach and just report back to the board and put up guardrails for the committee if they see them going sideways. And some are a little bit in between. So I
Is there
think
anything in the charter that reflects the requirement as a liaison?
not
No.
specifically.
I mean, the very definition of liaison is facilitating
go-between.
cooperation, right? And so that's where even in the organizational meeting, my opinion on it is we just really should not serve as a kind of de facto member. We just sit there, we facilitate cooperation, we report anything back to the board, we move any hurdles or stones or pebbles, but we don't
Right.
act.
But as of now, that is up to the liaison.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
Which along those lines, as a board, do we want to discuss what the role of the liaison is across the board? As far as my view is they should be more passive. They should let the chair run those meetings. I think we should have the chairs speak about the updates at our board of director meetings.
Mhm.
It's something that we are there to participate if they need us, or if we hear something that is off base. But for the most part, it should be the homeowners and those volunteers discussing the matters and running their business in the committee.
What's the consensus of yes, see, like, I'm sorry, I can't turn my neck
That's
very
okay,
low.
Don.
And by the way, I wanted to ask you this before we move on. I had spinal fusion last year. And so for me to turn my neck past about here is incredibly painful.
So why don't you sit there?
I was going to say, is there I could sit over there. Yeah, then I could see everybody. That would be great. Thank you.
When you were
John,
on
moving
the
forward,
board
we
previously.
can discuss how you want this set up.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry.
Don,
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
The board previously, were there board liaisons?
Yes,
Okay, so,
yes.
because I remember coming to board meetings where all the chairs of the committees got up and spoke.
Right, because the liaison, and let me move my mic over, the liaison was acting in the role that Charles
Mhm.
described. Liaisons were not supposed to be active or the go-between unless there was no other go-between. For example, CCDD. The board liaison acted as the reporter, the correspondent to the CDD to report on activities. Otherwise, we heard regular reports, if there was a report to be had, from the chair of technology communication. They told us, which personally, I think is very helpful because it brings a totally different voice to the conversation. The board member gets heard anyway, but members of the committee rarely get heard, and often the chair will hand that duty off to the co-chair or another member of the community, which I think is just dramatically improves
I think that's important.
our
That's something we should
communication.
consider when we're rewriting the
Resolution.
resolution, then to have that's if we want someone to be present, we need to make sure that whoever accepts the chair position is aware that that's a
I
responsibility.
agree. I agree. It used to be just the de facto. It was never codified. It was just the way is the way my board did it. I know it was the way you had a board that did it that way. I do remember previous boards doing it that way, Tom Sonneborg's boards.
It was all.
But I don't know it was in a resolution, that it was in a
All of a
resolution.
sudden, that stopped, I think.
I think, yes, and I think that was a bad thing for us. I think it got us back into this leadership by command as opposed to leadership by inclusion.
Right.
And we want to empower the committees.
I agree.
That's
That's
really,
why
and
We
especially
can
the
do
last
all,
few years.
we don't get paid for this.
So I think the piece that I have with the committee liaison role that I struggle with a little bit is there are things that I think that as a board, we agree that there needs to be that guardrail aspect to it, that the liaison needs to be able to state, if we see a committee going in a direction that we don't necessarily want them to go in, whose responsibility is it to get them back on track? Is it the liaison's responsibility? Does the liaison just bring the concern back to the board? Then the board acts as a body? I mean, I think that's the piece that I don't know.
That's a good question. But I think the board liaison also should be there for management's sake also, because I've seen a lot of times in past committees, not last year, maybe a couple of years ago, where staff is like, they brutalize management. And I think that's where the board liaison, if needs to step in and say, okay, let's stop, refocus, and respect our management team.
And I think to that point, and to your point, Eric, this is a very intelligent bunch of people. I mean, Celebration is filled with very bright people, and these are people who actually care enough to step up and help run this mess. We're all pretty bright about what our role should be. I think if you were as acting as a liaison to a committee and you thought they were going totally off the rails, you could very, very gently bring them back online without coming to the board. But if it was a serious issue, then you would know to bring that to a board, Charles.
But also, I think part of this, and this is why I think we should have the strategic planning workshop. In order to get to that point, we have to identify what the strategy is so that we can then inform the committees, right? These are the priorities for us as a board, so that Parks and Rec doesn't go off and start exploring things that are way outside of kind of where we as a board want to play in. So I think that's really, helpful for us to really establish those boundaries. And
the better we define.
That's it. And then from there, we take a step back. This is where we're going to play. I will be here to help you. I will be here to support you. If you want me at the meetings, great. If you don't, great. This is your committee. It's your committee. I'm just here to help. And
I think it's clear to state, just that everyone understands, the liaison doesn't like get a vote in anything, in a committee, like for covenants or ARC or anything like that. And so, okay.
We'll just add, Charles, that I think the liaison should be present either in person or virtually for all committee meetings.
I agree with that, and I also think that actually we have a requirement that if you miss if a committee member misses,
2 or 3.
It's like two, yeah.
I think that should apply to the board as well. If the board member is not able to, if it misses 2 meetings, then we need to appoint a new liaison.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you can't, I don't know about that, because you can't help sickness.
But
Sickness.
it's missing 2 consecutive or 3 consecutive. It's
Right.
not just that number of absences.
Whatever applies to the committee should apply to the liaison.
Yeah.
That's my.
Yeah.
And it does also state it could be virtual.
Yes.
So, yeah, you can be at a home recovering from something and still attend virtually. I think that's a reasonable expectation, because it's not going to be a black mark on anyone if they are not able to act as liaison and need to turn it over to someone else.
No.
I mean, no one's going to think less of us.
no, and part of the reason why I say that too is I think there is a different dynamic. When the board is not there present in the meeting, you potentially have different levels of conversation without, the person looking over it's just more so just how do you manage your committee and how do you let them kind of do good work?
And I'd like to raise a point of order.
I would too.
Oh, you are so sneaky. Smart move.
The 1-year terms get the.
That's the consolation prize.
A couple chairs that have done that.
was just kidding.
But going
It
back-
just seemed like a perfect. I'm going, look at you, Mr. Special. All right, anyone need to know any more about the role of liaison?
I guess.
I just love saying that.
One last comment for what Jared was saying is, I think we should all use common sense, where it's not just 2 strikes and you're out kind of thing, where if you get in a car accident that day and then your kid's throwing up the night for the second one, it's not, you're automatically booted. So if there is excused absences, I think it should be understandable. But if you're just missing them to miss them, then yeah, there needs to be action taken.
Now on, any further things?
Well, so 2 years.
Committee guy, this is fair.
2 years on the committee, this past year was tremendous. I had 2 board members at the meetings, texting, asking, sharing communication. The year before was horrible. I think one time the liaison showed up, just one time, 10 months, 11 months gone. So I think your points are very valid about the communication, the partnership, and really make me feel like we're being heard.
All right, I would like to, if you don't mind, go through these quickly, because I don't think we require a really complex vote. Let's just take volunteers. Who would like ARC?
I'd like to step up for Art.
All right, we have 2 ARC people.
No.
Oh, no. I won't fight you for it.
No.
Okay, Eric, just 1 ARC. That's
Eric's
done.
unknowing and signed up for a really doozy today.
Yeah.
Covenants.
I want to throw my name in for coverage.
Charles is covenants.
I'd like to also.
Oh, darn it, that's 2. All right. Is there any chance you guys want to be like co-liaise? Where you could.
Why don't we just hold it until we go through the rest and see?
All right, let's see. We got covenants. Okay, let's see. We got Charles and Celia. Finance.
I would like to.
Ooh, Jared.
I would nominate myself, and I would think,
You can't.
You
be
sit,
there.
you sit on.
You're the treasurer. You sit on it.
I know, but that's where I want to talk about, should the treasurer be the liaison for finance? Do we need to have 2 separate roles
What's
for
the
that?
point of that, just as an aside? Just
Been handled 2 different ways. One way,
How
the
should it be handled?
how should it? Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I do recall that in the past, long time ago, the treasurer was the liaison combo because they already have that role of being intimately involved. But this is up to.
I'll pose this to the board too. I think there's an efficiency to be gained of not having one of us have to sit with another on that board. I think if the treasurer's there, they're the liaisons, that's an efficiency for our board. If this group wants Jared to be there as well, perfectly fine with that too. But that's just my take on it of, I think there's an efficiency to be gained here.
I'll say that I didn't run for treasurer because I wanted to be the liaison for finance. So if that's the case, that affects that.
No, that's
that
fine.
vote as
Then
well.
I'm comfortable with Jared being liaison. That works.
All right, special events.
Celia.
Celia? Anyone else?
And just to be on the record, I missed the last 3 meetings.
You're out. You're out. Done.
Sorry.
Sorry. Boy, that was quick. That was the shortest term ever.
No,
All right, Parks and Rec.
I'll go ahead and volunteer for that.
I hear that's the fun one. They even have a TV show about it.
I'm in.
Yeah, right. Doug, Parks and Rec.
I'll put my name in.
Sure, it's going to the dogs. Technologically.
I'll throw my name out there.
Service area.
Celia.
Now, I have a question about this one here. This is for my edification. Why do we have service area and artisan?
Artisan has well, actually, no.
Should be service area. It's all on.
Yeah, I think it's service area.
it was asked to be put on separately.
I asked to have Artisan put on as, having a board liaison.
But what if you're,
Well,
It's
no,
live.
no, I'll explain it.
okay,
So we haven't done Artisan since maybe before COVID. I think Jackson was, the board liaison for Artisan. I think with a lot of miscommunication with Artisan this year and the board, especially with Gallagher, I think they need some representation from the board. And since I'm the service area liaison, I think it's a conflict of interest if I'm also Artisan Park.
may I ask why
because my son is the general manager down there.
Yeah, that would be a conflict.
So that's why I asked for that to be separate.
Okay.
Would it make sense then for her to just recuse herself? So we have it all bucketed under service, and then when there is a situation where that. comes
Yeah,
to-
could you not just
I think-
recuse yourself from club issues?
Just so we have kind
Well,
of,
that's.
Because you're not a voting member.
You don't,
Yeah, there's.
I know, but I kind of think,
you just observe.
I know I just observed, but I kind of think, I think it's a conflict of interest, not a conflict of interest. I think maybe things.
You just think the
The
perception
optics are
that
not
the optics are not
Thank you.
good. That's a
Thank you,
great,
Don.
yeah.
All right, you live there. Andrew lives there.
I'm gonna also add that all the other service areas that Celia is representing are purely townhomes,
Mhm.
duplexes or triplexes. Artisan Park has the added issue of we do covenants inspections for them. Their
Okay.
clubhouse.
Different.
It's a
there is
bigger
the
deal.
clubhouse.
Yeah.
It's a different animal.
I think then it's a great idea to have an art. What do you guys think? Sense of the board?
I guess, is it something that Eric and I should recuse ourselves since we live in Artisan Park, that would be appropriate?
Yeah, I agree.
So that leaves four. Who wants it?
What?
I'll do it.
Don't be too excited.
I think it's just important that they have a
Hey, no,
representation.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for our non-artists, or for artisan residents to not be that, you're right about the optics.
I guess just along those lines though, just to add, if we do add Artisan Park, is there an expectation that there's gonna be an Island Village or a North Village or every village gets?
No, Artisan as a whole is a service area and has their own management contract versus, and the other service areas are just townhomes versus Island Village, and the other villages are just single family.
Yeah.
not just
Artisan
single
is
family.
just like West Village, East Village, South Village, Main Village, North Village, whereas Artisan truly does have a separate agreement
Mhm.
that was
A different
knocked out
management.
between St. Joe. And so they're like a different world altogether.
So this board liaison is for the Artisan Park Committee.
Committee.
Yeah, search it.
Yes.
Right,
actually thinking about the Gallagher thing,
right.
that makes sense now that we're talking through it, because that was something that I think got dropped. So I think, yeah, that's, glad you brought that up in hindsight.
I want to say thank you, Celia, Eric, and Andrew, because everyone knows I'm a stickler for conflict of interest, and that is a big thing. And so thank you for removing yourself from this.
Yeah, and just so that people understand, so I live in Artisan Park and I pay my money there. But I think the other piece too is just from a clarity standpoint, when the pass through things that we do, like where we have to approve for Artisan, that sort of thing, we'll need to discuss it at some point because previously I recused myself from each one of those things that we did.
We
So
got that.
We just need to figure that out.
We
if I
got
still need
that
to do
from
that or not.
Tom, the past 3 years that I've been on the board because of my conflict down there. And he says, no, he says, you can vote. Correct me, Lauren, or maybe we can ask Tom again.
We'll
and
get
that
a
we're
point
gonna
of clarification
Yeah, we'll get
on
it from
the fact
him.
that you guys are residents there, because it was a different point
That's the
that
difference.
Celia.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
For the board, I'll go a step further now and say, if you guys are comfortable, that we can certainly discuss matters with you. But
Right,
Eric and I
sure.
will not vote on anything that regards Artisan Park, that the five of you guys will be responsible.
Yeah, that was the clarification. It was basically, you can
Yeah.
discuss things, but you
Yeah.
just can't.
That
vote.
sets a powerful tone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Really powerful tone. Condo Council,
I would like to continue.
I think you've done fine. What are we gonna do on MPAG?
I'll say me and Celia.
Now I'm gonna throw, I've been thinking about the next one. Because I've sat on both boards. I did 8 years on CDD and 5 years here. And I really think with all that's going on, that if I could be a co-liaison with someone, but I really think that it would make sense for me to liaise with CDD.
Take it.
Because we're gonna have so much going on with them. I really do believe one way or another, no matter what we decide, we're still gonna be interacting with them, which personally I believe we should. I have been advocating for this for all my 13 years on boards. is that CDD and CROA are not at odds. They are different, but they are the same town.
So these liaisons, though, same category that we discussed previously about the same liaison role, in that it's a little different because we can't tell the CDD or the foundation or the school district.
No, these are the communicative roles
Yes.
External.
where that
Right.
person acts as the conduit.
Yeah, these are more. In my opinion,
I am not guiding, it's not really liaison, it is more representative to. Because what generally happens at the CDD, and I can only speak for the CDD, is that at every meeting in the past, we asked the CROA liaison, the CROA person, if they had anything they would like to share. They were a regular part of the meeting.
And I think
Yeah, I just did that
CDD
the
should
last
be a
year.
regular part of our meeting.
If but if they don't send someone, then through us. But yeah, I think it would be great if they sent someone. And that would be one of the things I would bring up at the first meeting I attended, is that we should, we should hostage swap.
And I think honestly, having you as liaison, as we start getting to the MPAC potentially joining us with CDD, it makes sense for someone who's been sat on both boards as we start potentially getting together and sorting through what that looks like. I think there's the knowledge.
The more I thought about it, the
Yeah,
more I
makes a lot
thought
of sense.
that just, to me, made perfect sense.
Here's
Okay,
just a
so
comment for these next 5 liaison roles. Does it make sense for us to either have a chair 1, chair 2, or a co-liaisons to divide and conquer and work on this? Because these are definitely bigger players in our community. And
They require a lot less attention though, like school board is very, very minimal.
Well, we haven't fully developed the school board relationship too. That's part of it. I think we just started doing it for the first time again last year, sort of, and trying to get that off the ground. We're trying to build good relations and sort through things. And a lot of this too.
Leadership options that we're
Yeah.
working through with Parks and
Yeah.
Rec as well.
Right.
And, as far as the school district and the county go, in my opinion, I know in the past, those communication roles, those conduit roles were filled by staff. Where we would give requests to the staff and the staff would reach out to their counterparts. Because again, attending, unless there's a major issue, what's the point of attending a school board meeting about all of Osceola County? What's the point of attending a county commission meeting? It's just a waste of that person's time unless there is a celebration specific issue. However, when it comes to issues like the streets are a mess, we got potholes that need to be repaired. CDD would have CDD staff call the road people at the county and say, we need to get this.
Yeah, because we as a board can't call county. And
Right. And that's why I think it's this thing we can give to staff.
But that has to be though, going back, it has to be a strategic priority though, for us to be able to develop those relationships, and we need to put Lauren in step. That needs to be something that we say, build that relationship, spend time.
Find the right people.
Right.
And again, if you go to CDD and ask, they'll tell you.
Correct.
All we have to do is create, we have relationships already. We just need to cultivate.
So, yeah, I think the piece though here with the liaison role, there's nothing that says that the liaison couldn't ask for help from staff or ask.
But I'm just saying in terms of having the liaison, what that role, because I don't see it as attending all their meetings.
No, that's why I think these are different. You said representative. This is more, I know Lauren would like talk to the county all the time, but if she feels she needs to involve the board, having an individual to go
Yeah.
to.
As opposed to the whole board.
Yes.
Okay, that makes
It's nice-
sense.
It's nice to.
Should we
pull-
combine those two and make that external government?
I'd like to take that offense, because I was on the school board one.
Yeah, I think, does that make sense? That makes it's external government outside of our boundaries? Huh? School and county. And let that be Charles. Let that be Charles. Unless someone else wants it. And then Mattamy is very important, I believe. Oh, I skipped foundation. What about foundation? Who wants to be foundation?
I would do foundation.
Jared is foundation guy. And how about Mattamy? That is an important role in the fact that they're an ongoing.
I'll take them out of it. I'm sort of on it now.
For the money?
All right, so the only positions where we have combos.
Sorry, just going back to the Mattamy one on, there aren't any other, I'm trying to rack my brain right now. There aren't any other current builds in place with any other relationship with a builder. So like, for example, Mattamy, we're already done building the first phase, which included the condos and stuff out. There's no condos, it's just apartments, you're right. So that would be CROA anyway. So there's no other builder or anything that we need to be worried about right now.
Right. Along those lines,
Phase
Do we
two
need
is
a-
coming
Well,
up.
but that's the builder. I mean, Mattamy,
That's just Mattamy.
Mattamy owns the end of Celebration as we know it.
Right.
I guess with Spring Park and the playground, should there be a liaisons for that, or is that they just come to the board?
I think that falls under service, or Snow Spring Park. Oh, I think it's Spring Lake.
You're talking about the playground specifically?
playground.
The photo, that's just gonna be, get the dang thing done.
I know,
It's in on management now, because we didn't appoint a liaison, at least the past board didn't.
should we have a liaisons? Or they just come to the board and email?
We've already adopted the agenda, so I don't think we can, you know.
I think to me so I agree that the playground I think is important in that sort of piece, but I also feel that also falls under general projects and maintenance. So it could come under whatever we want to do. And those I think are going to need to come to the board anyway. Right?
And it also falls under Park and Rec.
Spot on.
As long as we have it covered.
Is there a resolution on covenants?
We're working on, yes, covenants. We have Charles and Celia. And that's the only one. Yeah, that's the only one.
Just so you know, with the covenants, I've been attending those meetings for 3 years as the backup to the board official liaison. So I know, and I was handed off this, Eric, and I'll share it with you today. And Gary can probably help me too.
I sat on
Oh.
the committee for 3 months. And I'm just looking to, again, with bandwidth, you've got special events, you've got service area, you've got condo council, you've got MPAG. you've
Okay,
got
at the same
CJs.
time, I don't have a full-time job other than babysitting.
No, I'm trying to workload balance, but it's however you want to take it. Do we want to co-liaison? Let's do it, or split it.
Wait, well, you're traveling is something
Yeah,
up
exactly.
there, you know, up
That's,
there.
you know, guys, that's the simplest, easiest way.
Mhm.
You split it. And if you show up at the same meeting, so what?
So, and just to be,
You're not voting.
well, yeah, and just to be clear on that, there's nothing that says that a board member can't go to one of these meetings, right?
So this
We
is,
don't.
Well,
That's
there
the
is.
question.
this has been a problem. Go ahead.
Yeah,
So can we- So last year, we had a lot of issues with board members just showing up without notifying anybody that they were gonna show up for a meeting, and we had a lot of quorum issues, so we had to kick people out based on a first come, first served basis. So I would request that there be some sort of protocol. Last year, I asked that if you wanted to attend a meeting that you weren't the liaison to, that you email the liaison, the management rep, and myself to let us know that you're gonna be there, so we could keep track of how many people were coming.
So we don't have a quorum.
Is
But-
it possible to attend?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know exactly where you're going.
If we all agree, and I'm happy to sign whatever we need to do, but if I, as a resident, want to show up to a covenants meeting and I sit there and knowing as a board member, I cannot speak and I won't get up to the microphone, can we agree that that is acceptable? What is,
I don't
and
have
we
a
can wait for
problem.
Tom
I
on
would like to
this,
defer to Tom.
And I guess
but I
one
think
other-
if
But yeah.
that's,
I think as a resident, though, you should have every, I mean,
I
the
agree, but
quorum
right
is-
now that's not.
does the liaison count toward a quorum? But even though they're not voting?
Counts towards the quorum of the board, not.
Board.
Oh.
So if there's,
Right, so for instance, fine.
Oh.
Well, one other.
One
person.
other.
But my understanding, and again, we should run this by Tom. My understanding is unless it's to discuss business, that you don't form a quorum.
Correct, but that's not how it's been interpreted.
Okay.
lately. I agree with you.
And you know what
Because there's an
started
argument to be
that?
made That the committee is discussing CROA business.
Right, because we had this issue with Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
A few years ago when there were 4 board members, miscommunication. There was 2 liaisons. At the time, we had 2 liaisons. So two board members showed up. And I remember an ex-board member said, you can't all be here. You have a quorum. So we
I'm
tried.
feeling this gigantic can of worms kind
I
of
know.
thing, where I'm thinking, well, what if you're on YouTube?
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask, if you're on
If you're
virtually, does that count?
well, if you're on Teams, you can actively participate.
Right.
If you're streaming via YouTube, different.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if we clarify that, because everybody should be able to go to everything.
I honestly think as a resident, you have a
Right.
Right.
right
So the liaison will make sure that the other board members aren't speaking at those things, but attending shouldn't be an issue.
Right. Like we attended the ARC meeting.
Right.
And we sat in the audience. We tried to keep.
I think, am I wrong? Is the sense of the board, like the board should be able to, we're all residents?
I usually go to ARC meetings unless I have to, so.
No, who wants to go?
You can cut me
I
out.
do apparently.
Finance is a good
That also brings it back, that also brings it back a couple of years ago when they had the celebration hall advisory group. And we were told that we couldn't come to the meeting because if we were coming to the meeting, there would be a quorum. It's like, wait a minute, we're residents. Why can't we come to the meeting?
And that would be
So
like
Lori
saying.
didn't
board
notice
member
everything.
just, coincidentally decided to go to the tavern on
I
the same
know.
night, and at one table
I know.
down the way from you, that board member discussed business with his or her spouse.
I know.
So I think we all have general alignment here. I think that we just, we just need to get clarification from a legal perspective, right?
All
I
right,
agree that if we're discussing something at a budget workshop or at an MPEG workshop, we'll notice that and we'll all be able to speak.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the.
Well, I would assume like when we have the finance committee budget workshops, generally if the board's attending, we notice it as a board meeting, so you have the opportunity to engage if you choose.
okay. I think we have all of our liaisons unless my poor little sad brain missed something.
So just maybe a teaser for everyone is, I
Don't
think
spoil
there's some agreement that we do want to install a communications committee. So as that gets under works in March and we do the resolution, everything of that nature, that's something else that I believe as a board, we have that in process of something we would like to add.
That's on the
It's on
agenda.
here. It's on
Yeah,
here.
It's at the end.
Yeah.
Then I'm just jumping ahead.
Yeah.
That was a spoiler alert.
Administrative matters.
All right, so I think we've done that part. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Now on to major activities. First up, reserve projects.
So we have a number of large reserve projects that are up for this year per your reserve study. We also need to redo the reserve study next year. So this year, so you'll see that on your agenda coming up. I'm just waiting on one more bid. The most urgent ones are the North Village, Lakeside and Spring Park pool decks. They are all up to be redone and they desperately need it. We've already done leak and erosion checks on all three pools, and any small leaks that we have found have been addressed. So we are ready to go and move forward with the deck replacement. We are getting bids from 3 engineers to write that scope of work and monitor that project from start to finish. Next, all of the bathrooms need to be refurbished, and this kind of bleeds into the MPEG a little bit. They've been on our radar since last year, but we've been kind of waiting for the MPEG to make some recommendations and decisions on what they're thinking about these amenity centers, because there has been some discussion about, do we want to modify, expand, change these things? So we're going to need some direction from the board, and it doesn't need to be now, in terms of how you want us to proceed with the bathrooms at the facilities. We can just do some painting refreshes and some deep cleans and some replacements of things that are broken, or we can go out to bid for full refurbishment, things like.
So in regard to that, the bathrooms. No matter what the master plan advisory group says, we know the bathrooms need complete renovations. The bathroom at North Village isn't going anywhere, no matter what they do. The bathroom at Lakeside isn't going anywhere, no matter what the group comes up with.
I think the difference is that, like, so for example, without getting too far into the discussion on it, like Lakeside's a perfect example. So understanding what Lakeside's use is moving forward.
That use, those bathrooms are gross and disgusting and ugly, and they need major.
Yeah, but if the MPEG is going to talk about, we want to tear down Jones Room and the
Yep.
breezeway and
Right.
do some sort of clubhouse thing, that's going to impact the bathrooms at the pool.
But
You're still going to need bathrooms
Yeah,
at the pool,
right.
but I might do less to those bathrooms, like just do a painting refresh and replace broken items versus go out to bid for a full refresh with tile or what have you. So I think there needs to be some direction from the board and or MPEG on that.
Is MPEG looking at short and long, like, are
I
they looking at kind
think
of this
we-
year
I
and then
think
3,
we-
5 years out?
I think we kind of told them that I think my impression was that let management handle the bathrooms because that's a maintenance.
I don't recall on that. I don't remember.
You know, there's so much, they
Yeah.
talk a lot,
To
so.
answer your question, there are like immediate, like once we're handed this
Yeah.
report, like do these things now because it doesn't affect anything else.
Right.
And then there's
Yep.
this year, next year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year.
But in
So it will come in
reality,
all categories.
right, but in reality, that bathroom into the lakeside pool always will need to be there because it's the access from the pool into the bathroom for people to get changed. So you can't move that into the Jones room if somebody wants to get changed and go in the
No,
pool.
Lauren's saying she wants, like, there has to be brought up to the celebration standard baseline. And then from there, what is the plan to enhance? Do we enhance? Do we use capital improvement, whatever? That's where it's.
So in the next 4 months, we'll know that. So that
Yeah,
would
okay.
still be a this year accomplishment.
Mhm.
How much money we put behind it is what we need to.
Mhm.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's,
And they have the MPEG has the reserve study, so they know what we already can spend and not be out of line on anything. And then they can recommend, but you're gonna need to double that. or
Yeah,
you need to add
And to your point, Celia, I think what the thinking, it sounds to me, for example, let's use Artisan, perfect example. Artisan clubs, the bathrooms are in the club. And you can then get back and forth through these interior
No,
bathrooms.
you can get.
No, but I'm saying you can
Right.
go either way.
Yeah.
You know, and let's say someone wanted to turn the Jones Room into a big community center. The bathrooms might just get rebuilt
Right.
completely so that they were accessed from the pool and the building. I think that's just what the thinking is. There may be a major change from MPEG, and I think MPEG is probably the most important thing we've ever done in celebration. So I think we need to let them do their due diligence.
and along those lines, just taking Lakeside, for example. Do we do just a minimal bathroom refresh and pool deck, and we don't look at that project for another 5 or 10 years?
Mm.
Versus, are we doing some major renovation of a new building there that has new bathrooms, new locker rooms, new everything?
So-
That's
That's
where
what
the master
impact
plan.
is.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying now, that we can't make any decisions now on that.
Right.
It can go a couple different avenues. Then we want to see homeowner priorities of what they really want. And then from that information, then we can start structuring the plan of what are we doing this year? What are we doing next year? What are we doing 5 years from now? And start putting those pieces together, looking at what money we have to spend versus what projects we can put that money toward.
The other thing that we need to think about, sorry, is your action plan.
That's what I was just
Okay.
gonna say.
So the more we sit on this and not whether refreshing it, fixing it, enhancing whatever, the longer it's going to be borne out in the surveys that you're not happy or the residents are not happy. So I think the sooner we can make a decision, whether that's MPEG, whether that's us, we do need to get in front of that, I think. Sooner
I
rather than later.
couldn't agree more. This is something, and this is a question I have when we get to the MPEG part of this, about the timeline. Sure. I want to ask about the timeline.
So yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, the biggest thing that we hear from residents is maintenance of the amenity centers. We need some landscaping refreshes in some of the larger parks. Hippodrome, one of them, Reserve Place is one of them, but those are gonna be large. I mean, the Hippodrome estimate with having to replace some dead/dying trees and putting in new larger trees so it looks nice and clean is gonna be in the, $75,000 to $100,000 range. So these are large projects that we don't want to do pending the MPEG, but if couching this in the action plan, we're going to continue to get negative feedback because we're not doing anything. When these are on our radar, we know we need to do them. We have bids ready to go. We're just waiting. So these are pending things, and that's part of the conversation that needs to be had with the community.
Yeah,
Well-
I take that on ourselves as a board where if you are getting complaints because we're not doing something, we need to explain that to the community of why and what that timeline is. So for instance, if we're not going to do bathrooms for 3 months, come out and say it. We're not going to do it for 3 months because we need MPEG to complete their survey, community input, get our list together to put a plan. And then from there, we'll tell you what we're going to do the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. So that's something where if you are seeing that, it's not that Grand Manor sucks. It's that a plan takes time to put into place. There's only so much money we can allocate at different times. And communicating that to the community of this is where we're stepping forward and getting that input from them along the way.
See,
So the group did want to present that part about the bathrooms to management. to get it done because of the state that they're in. I don't know if you were at that meeting, Jared.
Yes.
But they wanted to, and we said, well, it's part of the reserve, bathrooms need to be done. We know that it's part of maintenance, part of the operational, it's part of Grand Man is what they need to do coming up. So they did want to present that to the board and at least get that ball rolling because of the state of the bathrooms. I mean, it can't cost a lot of money to replace all the toilet bowls in Lakeside bathroom with maybe toilets that are higher than the.
But I guess the question, though, Celia, is until MedPAG totally presents the plan,
Right.
do we want to spend $10,000 replacing toilets
Well, paint.
and paint and sinks and all those things, and then 9, 10, 12, 15, 16 months later, go in and tear it all out and rebuild the bathroom?
Well, I think the other thing, John, on that is what's the new celebration standard? Because Lakeside, if I'm just gonna do a reserve project, I'm going to replace like everybody's seen Island Village bathroom and a lot of the conversations that have been had amongst the community and in board meetings from residents, comments is we want our facilities brought up to the Island Village standard. Not saying that we should do that necessarily, but I'm just saying those are the kind of things that the board's gonna have to give directive on with input from MPEG and the community.
So I guess from MPEG, is it that on the topic of Lakeside only, are they going to strip that out of their review? And we're going to take the approach of, we are only going to do a refresh of the pool decks and a refresh or potentially small enhancement of the bathrooms. And that's that piece of celebration that's being taken care of. And that's the scope. We're not looking at putting a community center there or pickleball courts or anything else.
No,
It's that we're just doing the pool and the bathrooms, fixing that up, taking care of Lakeside. We as a board can work in that process, and the master plan advisory group will look at everything else.
Because I think the bathroom and the pool are one entity.
No, but I think his question was, is MPAG ready to say, we're not going to do anything else at Lakeside except fix the
No.
pool
No.
and
In
fix
fact,
the bathrooms?
By design, we are not telling them what to do. The only thing that is siloed out is maybe this building, but even that's still part of the whole plan to where it ranks. Because we didn't want to give any direction from the board
Right.
of what the master plan should be. The master plan should be coming from the residents, not from the board.
Right.
So we've given them no
And
direction.
you're working on.
No, but I
the
mean,
survey.
that MPAG then still has that opening to say, if they wanted, we need a new facility at Lakeside, Jones Room tear down, do.
Yes.
Okay, I think, does that answer the
So,
question?
yeah, so then I guess you probably don't have this often, Lauren, but as a board, I apologize in advance for the next 3 months of complaints you will receive, because we are going to walk through the MPEG plan. And please communicate that with people who are calling in that are angry about this or that it is part of a bigger process overall for celebration that we're working through. It's on the list, but it's going to take a little bit.
But we have orders, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but there's two things also. There's the wholesale replacement or whatever, and then there's just general cleanliness and maintenance, and we affected that in the budget with the porters, right? So
Yeah.
some of that stuff is,
There,
you're gonna be able to deal with that because now you have the stuff.
the cleanliness, I will say, and with this pulse survey, and Stacy and Mitra has seen some of the results, is the cleanliness, we are seeing a positive trend
Okay,
towards
good.
away from the negative and towards the positive. I'm not saying it's fully positive, but we're seeing a positive trend line. And I can say just from my own personal experience in the town hall bathrooms, it's 10 times better than it was before with the porter.
Yeah, the town hall bathrooms look a lot better.
Right.
Now, are you done with reserve? Do you have some more reserve stuff?
No, I just so we're all clear, we're putting bathroom refreshes and stuff on hold. We will still do touch-up paint and standard PM stuff and cleanliness items, but just.
So I would ask that, I think that there is a fair amount of residents that actually, and I know this is going to be surprising to folks, that don't even understand that bathrooms would be part of impact. So there's a part of me that wants to say, for some of these areas that we don't necessarily know what we're doing with yet, it doesn't cost a lot for us to print an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that says this area is up for refurbishment or, a decision on what we're going to do. This is the information of what we're doing. Laminate the sucker and stick it on the wall.
Or to that point, instead of doing that, when we get done here with this very voluminous meeting, that we as a board send out a statement as a board saying, we hear you. The MPAG group is working their tail off. These things that you have asked for, we are considering, that this group is considering. We are moving forward toward meeting these goals. And here is what we hope, and that's what I would like to get out of this, is here's what we hope will happen over a month, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12.
I think that's good. I will say that.
I mean, a board letter from all of us.
I agree. I will say that not everyone's going to pay attention to that. And I think that in the moment when I'm standing in the bathroom and I'm going,
Okay.
this place looks like crap, you know.
A sign on the mirror that
Sorry,
says,
I
"Nope."
swear too much. That's been called out. So about the playground. It is, but I think it does a lot. But I think that we need to me, I think that in the moment, then a resident, it helps from a survey perspective, because then you then see, they recognize in the moment that this is a problem.
I think the opportunity here is with the communications committee working with, instead of having management have to apologize for the next 6 months or 3 months, but get ahead of, we frame it with the communications committee and with the MPAG with what their, as we get closer to the end of their project, we will know what the identifiers are, what we can do first, and we can get ahead of that and talk about it.
No, it's so.
I think that's great. And we should also, I love the laminated sign idea. Put a QR code, how do you get the feedback after you leave the bathroom? These are your ideas, right? How do you get those, like after you're
Well, yeah,
leaving?
or where to reach out.
Direct them to the
for
master plan advisory group,
master
direct them
plan,
to,
yeah.
so that you build the engagement on that as well.
Celia.
Can I ask the board, poll the boys, who uses the pools? Charles, you use the pool at Spring Park?
Mhm.
You use the pool where?
Wherever my kids go.
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
like,
Usually.
it's Spring Park and Island Village, not Island Village. Spring Park and Lakeside bathrooms are the most disgusting bathrooms. I'm sorry, I live here, I pay, I don't want to wait. I'm just talking as a resident. The bathrooms are disgusting. I remember when we first moved here, they were bright hot pink, and I used to write to the board all the time, can you just get rid of that hot pink color? It's cinder blocks in those bathrooms. The base molding that attaches the floor to the cinder blocks is disgusting. It looks dirty, so you could go in there and scrub all you want. I went down to North Village Labor Day and scrubbed the floors just to see what comes up and why it doesn't come up. It's gross. We don't have time for
To your point then, possibly, let's consider for a moment, because it would be nice to eventually change out the toilets, change out the sinks, but those are all plumbing and
Right.
equipment expenses. They get pricey, and if you replace them twice, it's really stupid. But maybe we look to management from the reserves to go in and just do some cosmetic,
cosmetics.
just
Yeah.
cosmetics, just a coat of paint. Remove, if the baseboards are crap, get new baseboards in, those are cheap. Maybe if the floor needs a coat of paint or whatever it is to make it look nicer. In the interim, an interim solution that solves the immediate issue of nastiness
Right.
and holds us over, because you're correct. It could take, if we were gonna build a new building, it'd be
Yeah.
2-3 years.
And in the meantime, when you go to the pool and people know you're a board member, which is fine with me, I don't care. I love speaking to the community. But I have to use those bathrooms too, and my grandchildren, so they need something.
It's reasonable to me.
Is that, Lauren, you, good, okay,
Okay.
That's a consensus kind of thing, I think.
yeah.
Because it's
I
reserved.
think it's so.
Other reserve things going on? I had a question on if there's service area reserves that are coming up.
Service area reserve items, yes. You have, Academy Row Meeting House Green are getting painted this year.
Yep.
And that includes their fences, the garage apartments, Green Lawn is getting painted, and Roseville is getting painted this year.
So on Academy Row, and I may be confusing pieces here, we made a mistake when I was on the board of the reserve study was backwards, that we painted the year and then we replaced the roof the next year and we screwed up the paint. Is the roof should be due soon on Academy Row, I believe.
Have to double check that.
So I think the only thing that I would ask is when we look at the reserve study, understanding that that's when the money is going to be due. But I think that if just understanding when we're looking at some of these reserve projects, if we're doing them out of order, even if our hands are tied, because that's where they stood up the reserve study, we just need to know that, because I know we've done that where we've replaced landscaping, but then we turn around and then we have a roofing project, which is going to destroy the landscaping in the process.
Roofs are 2030.
They're 2030. Okay, so we got 5. Okay.
And they're getting, just recently, Rose sent out in the management report that they're getting their sod and their mulch in the service areas, and they're getting their trees trimmed.
Yeah,
So
so
they're working on it,
we're
and
doing
she's been
trees.
sending pictures.
we're doing paint and then we're doing a landscape refresh in Academy Row. Parkview is getting a landscape refresh. But the big is this year is those 3 painting projects.
Question would be, is there anything in the reserve that is scheduled but doesn't need work completed?
Well, you've had a couple of years worth of large reserve items in this building that we haven't done.
No, I'm saying like in a good condition. For instance, if the pool decks were inspected and they were perfectly fine, we don't need to redo them. That's what I'm looking at, not something that has been.
North Village Playground and Lakeside Playgrounds are up for replacement this year, but we're not touching them until we have them inspected by the certified playground inspector. She's coming out next week, Monday, to do those. Though we did just have a break out in the North Village playground area, so that's probably a little bit telling on that equipment. Yes, there are large items that we haven't needed to do, but I'd have to go through.
Yeah,
and
no,
give you
that's what I definitely want to walk through
Yeah.
with you on. We have items coming up, but can we get another year here, another 2 years here to move stuff around? So that
I'll
we
give
can
you an
coordinate
example, like
things where.
all of the ice machines at the facilities were up for replacement last year. We don't need to do that because they're
Right.
all in good condition. We've been doing regular maintenance on them, things like that. So there are
Right.
larger expenditures that we haven't had to make because we've been taking care of them.
And we've overfunded reserves to this point too, correct? Is that kind of where we are?
You haven't overfunded, you are overfunded because you haven't spent in prior years what you were anticipated to spend.
We haven't spent the reserves.
Correct.
How, they had that piece of equipment that was broken at North Village how is that, I'm trying to understand how that could be repaired.
Did the playground?
Yeah,
I were waiting for the expert to come tell us what.
but in the meantime, what happened to that piece that was broken?
It was the bolt,
No, it was a crack.
The plastic.
the crack where the bolt was.
Yeah.
Where the bolt screw.
There's 2 issues. There was one where the bolt fell off. There was another where
No,
the
the
panel
bolt,
cracked.
the bolt
The
was
bolt.
at Long Meadow,
There's bolt at North Village too.
and then the crack was at North Village. So how is that crack repaired, is what I'm asking.
It's not repaired right now. There's a caution and sign up.
There are various ways to repair it,
Yeah.
from
Yeah, I'm
from
trying to
replacing the
understand.
part to epoxy.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
This is why
That's what
this is why the playground inspector is coming out, so the expert can tell us the best way to repair it.
Okay. Just so, because it was on social media and we don't want anybody to get hurt.
Yeah, which I think the message, Lauren, is that it's shut down, there's paper around it, so kids are not playing on it.
Yeah.
So that they're hurt, but unfortunately, that's another part that we can't use at the moment.
Okay, before moving on to master plan, anything else on reserves?
No.
Any questions on reserves? Let's talk about the illustrious MPAG, the Master Plan Advisory Group. My first question is, because I truly do not know this, I haven't been involved. What is their timetable?
They have an 8-month timetable. They're right at the halfway point today. So they've got 4 months to go to bring a report and presentation to the community by the end of June.
End of June.
Yes.
Okay.
There will be a survey going out this month. I sent everyone a recap. I don't know if you've connected your emails yet, but I did send a recap of that meeting last night. So you know what was discussed and what the plan was there. The biggest takeaway from that is that they're writing the survey results. There's disconnect with CDD and the MPAG in that they are moving at 2 different speeds.
Yeah.
Dramatically different.
Dramatically different.
And so CDD wants to be a part of the survey to get the information. So we need to have a meeting with CDD and CROA to talk about what that information should be, or more probably their consultant to see what questions need to be included in the survey to make sure that we're getting everything that everyone needs.
So we're not surveying everybody to death
Mhm.
between the CDD and CROA.
But that's happening, that'll be happening this month.
And there is a meeting scheduled,
No, there is not. When we get to meeting schedules, we'll address
and that meeting, the meeting you're talking about will be between
CDD.
MPAG, the entire CDD board, or just
That's
CDD
up to,
consultant?
that's up to CDD to decide.
And CROA, or just the liaison,
No, CROA, it should be this board.
the whole board? Okay.
It should be the MPEG group members, and then it should probably be the CDD board
A
and
joint workshop.
their consultant.
Got it.
That would be the ideal list.
This way
That's
everyone's
a lot
on the
of
same
people.
page at the same time.
That's a lot of people though, so the people talking there should be the MPEG leaders and their consultant.
Yeah, so there's gonna have to be some tight strictures on,
Yeah.
because you lose control.
Yeah, I guess my thought would be that MPEG would be the presenters to
Mhm.
both boards.
Yes.
And they,
That's how it should be set up.
and they were voting on the charrette last week, and I think they wanted to see how this board would, when we had new people seated, kind of what direction we wanted to go, just to make sure that we wanted to continue the partnership with CDD and before they engaged in that type of spend. So
So did they not commit to that?
I think the commitment was that they are going to move forward in good spirit, but they haven't signed anything. They're not signing anything until they sit down with us.
Either way, my recommendation is when this meeting occurs about the survey, my recommendation as liaison is that us as a board are as vocal as little as possible, because MPEG should be leading that conversation for the community.
Yeah, we're here to absorb,
Yes. We're
now
here to execute. when it's done.
execute later,
Yes.
and to throw our opinions out later. But
Yes.
right now it should be listening,
Yes.
listening,
Right.
and more listening. Hard to do sometimes.
I think Joe could take the lead on that. He's a good speaker and they're consultant for the CDD. And I think we can fit all of us in this room. We did it during the candidate forum.
Oh, yeah, no, we can fit everybody in the room. I'm not worried about that. I'm just,
And this will
and I
be a
think you
public
guys, if
meeting.
you take the lead for CROA to make sure that there's an understanding as to the meeting logistics, dynamics, flow, and who's in charge, and that everybody is aware of the rules going in, both boards.
And on your part with the CDD liaisonship.
Yeah.
To make sure that we're all on the same.
same page.
So we
Okay.
can all talk about that.
And we also have to understand this, because I know we had a joint workshop with the CDD once and who was calling the meeting to order and there was some confusion.
I think that's part of the rules of the road that needs. to
There's
be set up
always,
between-
unless we codify it in advance.
That's why I'm bringing it up. So is this gonna
Everybody
be
wants to be
our
in
meeting? This is gonna be a CROA meeting, so we need to call the meeting to order and we need to.
Well, the problem is they will also say if they have a quorum, it'll be their meeting and they need to call it to order.
And
Yeah,
folks
that's
can,
what we
folks
got.
can do that. That's
Well,
what.
And it's really irrelevant. I mean,
It's irrelevant, but it happens every.
It does.
single
Right.
whoever,
We just need to make sure the agenda is written properly.
Yeah.
Yes.
yes.
That's it.
The one thing that I want to talk about too is Mattamy with master plan, because as we start getting into the new phases, do we need to also have them engaged in the process? I'm just curious.
Timmy's gonna take whatever you request as an advisement and they're gonna do what they want.
What if we?
Yeah.
I will as I was the co-liaison with Charles last year, I will forward the last email I sent. We did a little survey of, was it Parks and Rec?
Mhm.
Who did we get that from? Parks and
Parks and
Rec?
Rec
That was the one
lifestyle
that,
and
a couple
everything.
weeks ago.
Parks and Rec Lifestyle and Impact.
That was the one, okay.
Yeah, we said, hey, we have like 3 days to do this. What are your top
Okay.
priorities for town?
Okay,
They sent us a list. I sent that to the board.
Yep.
The board brought that down a little bit, and that's what we sent on. I will send that email that I sent to Mattamy. It was not responded to, but this is what we said. Here's what we would like you to consider.
That's what advisement sounds like.
So are we,
But it also included things that we don't want them to include, though. Like, here's things that we don't need you, don't spend money on this.
I'd love to
Because
see.
we don't want to maintain it, and we don't want to have to support it.
I just want to make sure we monitor Mattamy too, though, through.
Well, and that's through the Mattamy liaison.
so I think,
That's you.
That'd be me. So.
sorry, so just a quick question. So we're still on B, Master Plan Advisory Group. Are we done with that? Are we done with that? Are we comfortable there? And then we can talk about all of those, because I do have some.
Yeah,
questions on the current
I
state.
think, again, I just want to make sure that we really are going, that this timetable is carved in stone. that the MPAG group is absolutely,
That
we-
has not been
delays
unclear at all.
have killed us.
That's all 11 members understand and
Good.
agree to that. And
That's
actually, we offered them an extension towards the end of March, and they said, no, we need to get it done the first week because of their own.
So
schedule.
they have a sense of urgency.
Oh, they do, absolutely.
That is
So
true.
I asked Jeffrey to print it last night. This spreadsheet, Scott spent like 30 hours putting it together on that meeting we had that night.
Mhm.
And he didn't take out any words. He didn't add any words. This is real time what the residents asked for. So I don't know if anybody wants, look at it.
This is in the,
Talking
does
about-
everyone have access to the MPEG Teams channel?
Yeah,
Okay, so we can open up.
it's a
Teams
spreadsheet
channel.
online.
There's a whole
I-
very, it's probably,
Very
it's the
detailed.
most efficient folder that the board has access to, I would say, of how everything is
It's
organized.
got
and sorted.
files, folders,
Okay.
everything.
Just to that point, though, I sat on at least 2 master plan groups in the past where we had big community meetings and everybody came in and the reality was it wasn't everybody. It's always the noisiest, most organized. The best organized voices win, even if they don't represent the community as a whole. And this goes clear back to the olden days on the Celebration Civic Corridor, when Disney discovered that Disney did not want to build the bridge. They did not want to build Celebration Boulevard through to North Village. And they discovered a way to drive a wedge. They did it really effectively. They found a church group that wanted to build a church, and they were going to give them the land to build a church at North Village. And hundreds of people with this church group came in and said, you got to accept Disney's deal, which killed the road and opened up the whole civic corridor thing. So on these surveys, I want us to be very careful to look for things where you have the exact same ask.
No, that was addressed last night, actually. I can
And I
address
think
that.
the board's going to see the survey before it goes out.
Yes, there's members who are professional, already do master plans as their career and already do high-level surveys. So there's a lot of discussion last night about the questions, making sure that they identify these people through a series of, it's not going to just be a straight questionnaire. If you answer this way, you're now going down this path versus answering another way, you're going down this path. So the survey will be crafted in a way that how you answer affects what your next question is and what information you can provide. If you don't use the facility, you're not going to be asked, what do you think of the pools? Because if you don't use the pools, we don't care.
Why should you have an opinion?
Exactly. So they're very much paying attention to that.
It seems like a great group, and I was not at all calling into question them. That's awesome to know that the polls are being done in a academic, scientifically sound fashion. Because polling can be.
Yes. And so there was just over 80 results of the people that came that night, 80 individual results. 276 different identifiers, but there are about 80 plus people here for the workshop. And then they are expecting over 700 for the survey in the results that they get back for that.
Yeah, which my question for MPEG would be, we had 40% turnout for the elections. I think the last time there was 750 for the survey. How do we mesh those numbers to get more participation?
Don is required to get 1,000 and
You hire Debbie.
Right, well, that's
You
just the thing. I
hire
mean,
Debbie to get on the phone.
I mean, we love having a master plan, but again, if there's only 80 people that show up,
And maybe
that's not
seriously,
representation.
if they would hire Debbie for a week or two to get people she would probably get us 1,000 participants.
But again, is that something where they have a kiosk at specific events that you can do it on
Well,
iPad or something
We
else?
brought that up last
Anything-
night,
Yeah.
More
I
just
brought
thoughts
that
for
up.
them.
last night, Andrew, and asked if we could do it like when I'm at Food Truck Friday. And, have people get the QR code and do the survey, but it was. we
There has to
need-
be unique identifiers.
Yeah, they have to be.
Otherwise, you'll have the same person go,
Or you'll have people who don't live here.
yeah,
Which is
Yeah.
fine though. I mean, have them, have Lauren or management send them an email and go into their email and they can do it right there
Sure,
on
yeah,
that or something
yeah,
like
we
that.
can put something in town hall, it can be just in the lobby or something like
How
that.
can we improve that penetration of participation?
And the communications committee can help us figure that out as well.
I love the sound of that.
Yeah.
The communications committee. It feels good. I'd
Well,
love to see
that was
that.
one
back.
of, that was one of
I
the.
know it's on our thing.
that was
I'm
one of
so
the,
excited.
Of,
All right, so we move on to Island Village. Island Village? Any?
Eric had some questions, so I'll let him.
Yeah, no, so I guess, so having previously sat on a board when we did Spring Lake, I 100% understand where you're coming from, that we can provide all the recommendations in the world to the builder, and they're gonna do whatever the heck they want. Is that relationship different with Mattamy for some reason? Because there's a part that they listen to us.
no.
So there's a part of me that's like, I don't mean to be a jerk, but I think that number one, I don't want to waste our effort there, knowing, I think that we need to make sure that we understand what's going on in Island Village, so that we know what to expect. Like, for example, we knew when we took on Spring Lake that they were not going to build it with ADA accessibility. And the day that we took that over, guess what? We had to close the amenity to start building a ramp. I mean, it was nonsense, but that's what you ended up having to do. I see the same similar thing happening with that. Granted, Island Village is a much larger scale, so there's a lot of things that go on there. But I think that too, and this is where the communications committee comes into a play. I think somehow tactfully, we need to make sure that that's communicated to residents, that we are listening to the amenities that are being developed in the area. And once they're conveyed to us, we then need to figure out what we're going to do with them from that. But sometimes our control is limited, because I think from a resident's perspective, you think common sense prevails, and they say, well, of course, they're going to listen to what the CROA board does, but that's not the case. And so, and I know that's a double-edged sword of trying to figure out how to communicate that to someone that's building, but I think the reality is we need to make sure that people understand the lack of power or the lack of direction that we can provide to a developer.
So we've been expressing pain points from phase one with Mattamy in regards to phase two, and the CDD has been doing the same. A lot of our pain points from, I'll just say from the management perspective is, and this is partly because of the transition, because CCMC had engaged with them previously and had all the plans, and we came in and had no information whatsoever. So we were just getting things shoved at us from TCC saying, here, this is your park now. And I'm like, where is this coming from? So they're including us in those communications with TCC now, and that's partly on TCC for not, giving us that information as well. But,
So that would
onwards and
leave it
upwards.
with The CJC representative.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there was
We just all need to be
So,
talking to one another.
it's-
That's where it's, yeah.
We just met with them, what was that, about a month ago at this point, Jared? To discuss their landscaping and hardscape plans in phase two. We expressed some concerns about the type of sod that they were using in areas, about the Asiatic jasmine and the amount that they were using, because we are seeing it die out throughout celebration, even long established jasmine, tree types, things like that. They were somewhat receptive
Yeah.
to those comments.
They had the landscape architect here
Mhm.
too, who actually made notes on it, and they said, this we can address, this we can't.
That's fair.
So
And that's where the door opened for, hey, can we talk about doing some other things?
Yeah,
we're
that's
just gonna continue to stay engaged with them through the process and give as much input as we can. Whether they take it or not is one thing, but I think just kind of being that bug in their ear, at least, so we can minimize those pain points, is where we're gonna be the most successful.
Personally, I think that our most success will come from looking at both sides of it, of telling them what they don't need to spend money on, because one of the things that we brought up was gas grills. I know that's a contentious subject, but we currently, as a board, don't want to have to maintain or support gas grills.
Right.
So they may not need to put those in, which when I said that, his eyes lit up. That was a big expense that they were having. Let's not get rid of that money. Let's use that money to do something else that we do want, like an outdoor pavilion or something. But there are things, or a pool heater, yeah. But we should look at what do we not need that they are planning to do, so that they're not just, spending money on things that are waste for us, like we've had to shut down the grills already.
Don't forget, they don't have an apartment complex put in the bill for an amenity center and building a pool.
Yeah,
It's
but they've
on
got a
them.
budget for it.
Yeah, but it's on them now. The apartments built the pool and the amenity
Right,
center.
right.
So
What is the timeline for phase two? Like when does that all
So-
start?
They're in the middle of doing,
A lot
they're
of
starting
burning.
to do the conspan right now.
Right.
They finished all their burning in the month of February.
Right.
They're bringing in all the materials right now, so the Island Village residents are gonna see an uptick in truck traffic out there. They're still selling out the last parcels in phase 1B, which are the larger million-plus parcels. They're at the pretty much 90% drawings on the amenity center for phase 2, but that's not coming until 2B. So I think we won't see an amenity center this year for sure. Probably if we do, it would be very late next year, unless they really ramp up the sales and the build. So I think we'll start seeing some early phase 1 plats being pulled by Mattamy and some of those dues coming to us towards the end of this year, and then possibly some sales. The biggest impact for us in phase 2A is going to be the townhome attempted turnovers. If they were as rough as phase 1, it's going to be a lot of pushback with them. Luckily, with that, TCC, and I'm knock on wood, has not gotten involved and said, no, you must take this. But for the first year and a half, we didn't take over. Mattamy tried to pass over the first 3 groupings of townhomes for a year and a half before we would accept it. So hopefully they've gotten a little bit better, but we'll see.
So I think the other piece that needs to be addressed in Island Village, and it's one of those that we know it's likely an inevitability, is that the county's gonna punch the road through. And we know that Mattamy said they're not gonna do that and everything, but the county has already said they're doing it. So I think that if there's mitigation pieces that we need to discuss with either whoever does it, with Mattamy, CDD, what the county doesn't care, but whatever we want to do there we're gonna have a traffic issue there. So understanding that. And I think that, if we can try to get ahead of it as much as we can, whether there's speed signage, speed tables, whatever needs to be done there, which are not really CROA issues, they're road issues, which typically fall to the county and the CDD. But I think that it's a resident concern that we're gonna need to address in there as well.
I will say, looking at the phase 2A and B plans and what's out there in phase 1, and I'll share all those plans with you guys so you can see them. There's a lot of, on Celebration Boulevard, which will, what eventually is the punch through.
Right.
There's a lot of stop signs.
Yeah, it's not
So-
gonna be a race through.
It's gonna be if you're using it as a cut through, it's gonna not be a great cut through because of all the stop signs. And honestly, where they place that new school, it's just a standstill.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
So,
but yes, addressing the traffic issue and the concerns with the county, it's gonna be important.
okay.
And then just one other thing I want to mention about Island Village, and this is going to be more of a long-term thing. Because of its distance from the centralized location, we are gonna suggest working with CDD on building a satellite shop out there that we can all use as kind of a dropping point for tools, trucks, NEVs, what have it, gators for the CDD. It's gonna be a near impossibility. And just from a logistics standpoint, you're gonna need people stationed out there.
Sure.
that's a good idea.
How far are you into that right now, those conversations?
It was just an
Just-
initial throw out,
Okay.
but just seeing phase 2B, there's some land opportunity where CDD is gonna own some land. That might be a good spot for it. That's a little bit hidden, kind of like our shop is now. So I just wanted for liaisons. Yeah.
You heard that?
I heard that. Just can't turn my head that way.
I thought we put you there, so
Okay, Island Village, anything else?
I guess the last thing would just be, I know we can tell them what we don't want, but how do we ensure quality? I think that's the thing that is the hardest thing.
They
You know,
have
if
a
there's-
contract with us.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm just-
TCC is the answer.
Yeah.
Right, but if there's 3 amenities and they can do 3 okay amenities or 2 quality amenities, then let's do the 2. That's where.
We have no say
I don't know, we don't have
over
to
the
say, but
Yeah.
just,
Yeah,
You
Just
can
go over to my
say,
25-year-old house and look at the walls.
no, I know,
Yeah,
but
that's it.
to his point of, we don't want gas grills, okay, Mattamy says I can save $50,000 on it. I'm not going into $50,000 for a playground out there or something else, so.
Right, that's the important part. We need to take that $50,000 and spend it on something that is on the list that we sent them.
They need to, which we have no control over, right?
Right.
But it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah.
Ask nicely. Yeah, and it really, what it comes down to, it's the relationship.
Yeah.
It's the relationship that management has and the liaison has with Mattamy
Yes.
that's going to determine how this works out. If we come across as jerks, they're going to be jerks.
Right.
And I do think breaking down, I think we're gonna have to get to a place, I think many of us are already, but we're gonna have to, as we work through our committees and liaisons, not work in a silo, right? We're gonna have to talk to each other because of the interactions with what you learned with CJC, what I learned with Mattamy, what you learned with our ARC. We do a great job, I think, as is, but making sure that we just all kind of keep talking to another, share our information.
On to 8D, which is other major activities.
Could we talk about the CCFC,
Yes,
the drainage? Because
So-
that seems to be a major,
that RFP went out. It was sent to the board for, to look at. We're waiting. They've done a couple of bid walks. We invited 12-ish companies to bid. I think 3 have expressed interest. We're following up with others and looking for others to see if they want to come in on the tail end. A couple of the ones that are interested have built athletic stadiums for universities, professional clubs, things like that. So they are quality vendors and they maintain them as well. So when those bids are back and closed out, that will come to this board to review and make a decision.
just for this is to correct sins of the past with not putting drainage in with the fields and making sure that we don't throw
And this
money
is
down
being
the
run
drain.
by MBV Engineering.
Who did the, they just,
They were the ones that came out and did the analysis of the drainage problems
Got it.
after build.
Is the drainage issue at the fields solely related to having natural turf?
It's because
It's soil type,
We have
it's
done-
where your drainage is located. It's soil type, where your drainage is located. It's not crowned appropriately or sloped appropriately. And then, to be honest with you, the landscapers were not athletic field landscapers,
Sure.
which when you redo this field, if you redo this field, I'm going to recommend to you that you go out to bid for an actual athletic field landscaper, because it's a very different thing than just maintaining an open sod.
Is it like a landscaper?
Eric.
Is it like a landscaper that does the golf course, say?
Yes. Similar, yes, but there's also additional drainage issues because sanding and overseeding like you would do in one of our other Bermuda grass areas, that's gonna negatively impact your drainage on an athletic field. So there's different things that you need to do for maintenance and to ensure that you're maintaining the slope or the crown, depending on which way you're going with the field.
Where's that money gonna come from to do those?
so that's also what we need to talk about, because what we just talked about with MPAC, we're gonna need to give that to you guys, I think, to figure out, is this like what we were talking about with the bathrooms? Is this something that we just want to do, just fix the drainage, or do we want to look at potentially like we were talking about artificial turf too, right? Which I know can cost quite a bit.
Mhm.
So
Well, the
we're
fields,
gonna
how
have
much
to,
could the fields cost to fix the drainage?
150,000 was the,
No.
that was,
No,
It's gonna be.
I thought it was a $500,000 easy.
Yeah.
It'd be like seven.
Yeah.
oh, sorry, I'm thinking drainage.
could be like
The-
$1 million.
Okay, the drainage was 150, right?
No,
No,
no.
The contract to engineer it.
the piecemeal one that we were gonna do was 150,000 to
No
eat this
guarantee.
over into, to get us to where we would be a full replacement of sod reserve.
Got it, okay.
Which
So what portion of this is reserves and which is going to come out of capital?
We gotta figure
You're
out.
gonna have, so you
Yeah.
have a certain amount allotted in reserves, and then the remainder should really be out of capital because you're adding in additional drainage.
And so I would put this as kind of the same bucket of the lakeside bathrooms, just on a larger scale, that What are we doing with civic order? We don't know. Master Plan Advisory Group is working through various things.
Yeah.
We'll have to see where it fits, because
They are not
No,
addressing.
they're not addressing.
They're not addressing the field issue.
No.
That's
Yeah.
that's kind of a
We've
maintenance.
never
issue
even
that
given
is-
them that option.
Well,
The
yeah.
fields are there.
I view civic order holistically as we have lot B and D and the soccer fields. CCDD has their building out there.
Yeah.
If we are gonna make that, say, a sports facility, community center, whatever, that whole corridor falls under that whole basket. Is that something that we are funding to build it? Is CCD getting a bond for that? That's a whole big project for that whole area that I can't make a decision of saying, I'm gonna fix the soccer fields now in 6 months. We're gonna get into an agreement with the CCDD to take over the soccer fields, lot B, D, et cetera.
And we started talking, well, that's the other thing. We did this, what, in June?
Yeah.
We did this way back before really the master plan, or it was around the same time, I think.
Well,
when we started
the
getting play.
board previously said, we need to fix these and
Right.
fix these right outside of the MPEG conversation.
And they haven't been tasked to do anything in regard to the soccer field.
No, I know, and
In
that's.
fact,
now
we were talking about repurposing last night certain amenities, and we said, no, we're not repurposing anything.
I-
So,
I just want to make sure we don't just get it on the agenda and move forward with it. Like, we're gonna need to make sure we funnel it however it's the CDD or the MPAC, but we need to make sure we take the proper steps to align with kind of the long-term strategy.
It's gonna
whatever
be
that may
one of
be.
those projects that's gonna require, if you move forward, a community meeting to
Yeah.
discuss it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
So I'm not against the turf option either. I mean,
No.
looking at this money, just look at the long-term maintenance of these things as well, so.
I
Yes,
think if you talk to your partner programs, they might prefer a second at turf field and then a smaller grass field.
Yeah.
Based on my conversations with them. And from a long-term maintenance perspective, turf is much cheaper to maintain than sod. And it gives you more usability year round. Whereas sod ideally with the new drainage, you're back on the field within 48 hours. With artificial turf, you're on the field rain or shine.
you can claim right. So I think yes, I agree that we need to talk with the people that actually program the activities on the field. I think the other piece that I would want to understand from a financial perspective is we do rent those fields to entities outside. We
Not
don't.
anymore. That was the board right when it transitioned from Brian Kenzel to Jackson Mummy, the board made the decision to stop renting to outside entities because we had severe vandalism in the bathrooms.
Fighting.
And it has not gone back to opening up to outside entities.
Well, to that point, and pardon my lack of knowledge, because when I left boards, I decided unless it was something big, I wasn't getting involved. Those fields those then are 100% used by celebration kids
By
or celebration
partner
groups?
programs.
They're programmed by us.
They're
They're
programmed
programmed
by
by
us.
us.
It's.
But they are,
lacrosse,
I mean,
soccer.
yeah, there is benefit outside of celebration.
There is.
Okay,
So I think,
There's a lot of
Because-
interest outside of celebration to utilize those.
Yeah.
fields.
which
so I
is,
think, to me, there's a way to do that. And sorry to interrupt you, Don, but I think I didn't know that decision had been made. I see it's one of those pieces that if there really is no way to mitigate it and there's going to be vandalism no matter what and that sort of thing, and we can't accept the damage and the cost for that as figuring out how to do that, then yeah, we need to write it off. But I also see it also too as if there's someone that is an athletic group that's over at Wide World Sports and they need a practice field during the day, when we don't have any programming going on anyway there, and we can rent it out even for some sort of an exorbitant fee that would, if we needed to replace the bathrooms, we could. It could be an option, you
Like the
know.
high school does.
Well,
They
exactly.
come-
There's
Yeah.
a lot of options there, and I will say we've engaged in initial conversations with some larger clubs, national clubs that would be interested in a possible partnership in terms of a cost sharing agreement. If they get an agreement to have X amount of access per year, they would help build something. So we've had some conversations around that, kind of in anticipation of an appetite for another artificial turf field, but there is opportunity out there.
So, yeah, so I think to me, it would be understanding the financial aspect of it is if we go into a project knowing that it's going to be expensive, but then we look at it from, can we recoup some of this through anticipated
Revenue.
rental fees and that sort of thing, or not? And we say that this doesn't make any sense. That would be something that I would be curious about.
And even bigger picture, I'm thinking. Several years ago, I do know for a fact that Osceola County was ready to spend $2 million on those fields until a couple of members of the board were so afraid of outsiders coming in that they killed off a $2 million payment to the community for facilities, by the way, that we deserve to have because we're part of the community, and there are no county sports venues past the Kissimmee border. West of the Kissimmee border, none. They know they need to put something in here. They're mad at us now, but an apology goes a long way. Has there been any discussion about going back to the county and saying, let's work something out? We can solve the vandalism problem.
I talked to,
We saw
I've talked to Paige.
We solve the vandalism problem by, you know, which events are in there. You ban those groups that are causing the violence. You require some sort of security bond.
I don't think it was group vandalism. I think it was, I don't know.
There were a number of different issues that happened back
But
to
I
back.
mean, the fact of the matter is, it's locked up. You can still, anybody can break in, as we know.
Just lift the net.
Folks hop over the North Village wall. Those kinds of things are going to happen, but with cameras and security, those kinds of things can be mitigated. But to spend $1 million, given our incredible list of needs out of just homeowners' money, see, just homeowners, when there is a benefit to the greater community. And Katie.
If we were to go back to the county and have them partner with the fields, would that still require a 2/3 vote by the association?
Probably, I would think, yes. Yes.
But
It was some kind of.
but is a land lease,
In the case of the county, it was a usage agreement. They were going to put money in, it was a usage agreement. And they were going to go with, and the program was really well laid out, the initial concept. They were going to allow us to create the hierarchy of usage. As long as they got some county, they could show a certain amount of participation by residents outside of celebration.
I don't know if the residents are gonna go for that.
I will say, I talked to.
$1 million or
Don't know.
is it, I mean, okay, I'm not going to go into,
I know it's.
are we really not part of Osceola County? You're never going to get that.
So I will say, I talked to Peggy in the last year to start rebuilding that
Oh,
relationship.
good, thank you.
And they are interested in engaging with CROA again and rebuilding that partnership. So I think there is opportunity there to see if they would be willing to engage or interested in re-engaging with us. If it's about the athletic field or
Or some of the
or
impact things,
some of the MPEG things.
You know,
or,
good assignment for the
what
county
have you.
liaison.
a great assignment for the county liaison.
And I think we bring in, I think that's something we all need to.
Because we are, love it or, we can't leave the county. I love all the pie in the sky. Well, maybe we should just leave Osceola County. Maybe we should start our own school district. You can't do any of those things. We have to find ways to work with our county for the betterment of us and the community that surrounds us. We don't literally live in a bubble. There's no roof. And we can see it with crime. We have to improve these relationships. We act like we're better sometimes than they are. And it's a horrible thing to pretend to be. And it's part of the reason I think why we get short shrift on a lot of county services is we just have a bad attitude.
Yeah. On the civic order, my personal view is that I don't think that CCD offices should be in that space. So if there is involvement from the CCD liaison and the county liaison with Lauren, let's develop that for an Osceola West campus of some sort for sports fields or something else. Community center, again, whatever. let's have that conversation, because on the use agreement side, we already spent the money, they're already there. I don't see them coming back to the table really giving us much. So if we do get a deal from the county, I'm thinking it's going to be a low ball offer. But if we're building something new on the land that's out there, maybe there's an agreement in some place with the county, CCDD, and CROA to do something really nice out there.
See,
You don't want the CDD office there?
No, I think it's a waste of space in the city corridor for the
Doesn't
community.
CDD own that?
they own that land.
So we can't.
No, we have no say over that.
Yeah,
Is
we have
their
no
land.
say over that.
I think what he's saying is as part of a bigger agreement that we say, hey, CDD, give you, and again, I'm old apparently, so I'm just gonna say old things. When I was on my transition between CROA and CDD was getting ready to build a building. They were talking about building a building, and I kept saying, why doesn't CROA and CDD get together, and then this building could just become a community center, and we build a governance building together? That is the CROA CDD sheriff substation, county extension office, all in one big building where you use the meeting space. You don't have to build competing meeting spaces and compete. The offices are shared. Phone answering is shared among them. Hi, celebration office. Oh, you want to speak to the sheriff's office? They're right here. You know, the CD, they're right here. That was shot down by egos. Literally shut down by egos. Nobody wanted to work together. So I think that's what Andrew's saying is maybe we can miraculously find a way to work together on this truly comprehensive impact and leave the door open to all kinds of different things. Is that what you're saying?
My thought is, I don't want to be short-sighted, and yes, we have an issue with the CCF fields. We're just going to do drainage when we still have an issue with Lot D. We still have an issue with Lot B and what the civic corridor should be. So if we're going to make a run at it to fix one thing out there, let's look at, are we able to find some middle ground for an overall agreement for celebration of what we should do?
And I guess, and I agree. And honestly, that's also where if we have the RFP, I want to be mindful of the sweat from a management perspective
and a board perspective.
And I think that's, if we're going to call this a market check now, that's fine, just to see like what the price looks like, fine. But I think we need to set the expectation of what we're going to do with it when we get it back and how much time you're going to spend, chasing down proposals and whatnot. So it sounds like we're generally done, I think.
Do we want to open it up to John?
I move to recognize a member of the audience.
Thanks, sir. So coming from the athletic partnerships here at Celebration, I was past vice president of Celebration Little League. I am currently part of Celebration Flag Football. I'm part of Celebration Volleyball Club. Couple things. One, the flag football on the artificial turf, we have 2 games going on at once right now, and it's been fantastic. Like Lauren said, we're back on the field. People are respecting the grass, and the other 2 parts has been very successful on the athletic field. I'm also part of the high school Celebration Tackle. Again, the artificial turf on that field is fantastic. It's multi-use on that field, constantly being good. From a resident perspective, I will say, and I brought this up before, many of the residents feel sometimes our fields are rented out or over rented out to make money, and there's no use for us residents. When I'm trying to find practice spaces for our kids, our residents to use, a lot of the fields for outside people coming and using it. And the tennis courts is a perfect example. The basketball court, we have multiple partner programs from outside people coming in, pushing and hitting our kids to get our kids off those courts. So we do have some of that as well. And so I just want to be aware that we're talking about, and I'm all for subsidizing some of our dues. But again, we pay our dues for these facilities for our kids and our residents, not to make money from outside partnerships.
Makes sense.
All right. Anything on other?
The only other major activity.
The other?
The other is understanding, it sounds like from a playground perspective.
Oh, thank you.
So the playground at Spring Park, it sounds like that one, we're waiting for the responses back. We're going to review the RFPs responses that come in at the next board meeting, correct?
So I would like to set a workshop, and this is in your scheduled
Yep.
meeting section, to interview the top 3 or 4 respondents before your March meeting, so then we can keep this process moving and marching through. We should have bids back by what, the 15th?
We got 3 already. The deadline is the 15th.
Yeah, so we'll have bids by the 15th. We'll have vigilance, packaging of them and summary of them for the board pretty soon afterwards. And then we'd like to set a board workshop to interview the candidates. And then hopefully, I don't know, there's been some discussion about having the finance committee and or Parks and Rec committee kind of provide some input on that one. So if we can kind of outline a way to keep this marching forward and move it along.
And is that only on the Spring Park?
That's
program
correct.
replacement, and then Long Meadow we're tackling separately, or did we determine if we need to do something?
Long Meadow, we're tackling separately. We're struggling with the Long Meadow report from the playground inspector is pending information from the manufacturer of the equipment.
Right.
I've asked her to issue a tentative report or an interim report, sorry, pending this information because they're not being communicative with her and she's been trying to get this information for the last month and a half almost. We essentially know what needs to be done at Long Meadow. We just want it in writing
Right.
from the inspector. And then we need to issue that RFP and move that forward as well.
What's the timetable once we interview and approve?
So it's 10 weeks for manufacturing.
How many weeks?
That's with the new build.
How do we know,
Yeah.
how do we know that if we don't have the bids back though?
No, the timetable from, just approximate. I'm just looking at approximate timetable from when we
From-
approve.
Conversations during walkthroughs.
Okay.
That's so.
I just, as we're making public statements, I don't want us to be saying playgrounds will be done in 10 weeks.
It's-
No, I just want to feel, I don't, 6 months
No,
or,
I know, I just want it to be clear.
Yeah.
Because
We won't have a definitive timeline until you selected a vendor and we say move forward.
Because it's also comparative to getting permits and all that stuff with Osceola County, so. But just from a
but
manufacturer,
this is going to be a very high priority
Yes,
of management. So that this, we're not going to let this thing languish.
no, this is top priority.
So can we talk about, do we want to stay on the playground topic? Or-
Yeah,
Okay.
stay on the playground, please.
So the one thing, I do think the rec committee and the finance committee as well, I think the rec committee should definitely be involved in either the finalist interviews or reviewing the proposals, because historically, we kind of bypassed them on a lot of things. And I think this falls directly within their shop.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's gonna change though. The committee members might even know.
Well, that's also, when are we flipping the committees? In
Yeah.
April? So they're technically be still sitting
Yeah.
when we get the proposals back.
Because we won't change the baseline.
And they haven't looked at, it doesn't matter either way. It's whoever,
Could we do the chair from Parks and Rec and the chair from the finance? This way there's not,
Or they nominate somebody to
Or they-
represent them.
Yeah,
represent them.
I'm fine with whatever. I just think we need some level of engagement with the
Yeah.
committee. And that's, if it's the chair
Yeah.
or an appointee. And finance as well, just to
Yeah.
kind of look at the different permutations. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Otherwise, there's too many people involved in this.
I
In
agree.
reality, we're the ones that are making the decision.
I think it makes sense, if it makes sense to everyone, that we just tell the committees they need to nominate someone.
Yeah.
Agree.
To send. It can be the chair, it can be someone else, whatever.
And then we give them we give them their opportunity to ask questions.
Right.
Yeah.
I am concerned that we're not going to be able to vote on this in the March meeting. I think that's,
It's a tight timeline.
well, we have to do a presentation to the community based on a dollar value.
We don't know the dollar
You
value.
don't know the dollar value.
Do we really think this playground's gonna be under $250,000?
That's speculation.
Sure, I guess.
It's speculation at this. We have no bids back, or we have them, but
What are the
I mean, if we have 3 back, we know
okay, but
something.
we don't know the dollar amount, so it's.
Yeah, I think so. I want to be careful because we're still open for bid. So on discussing any amounts and that sort of thing. I think that to Jared's point, the timetable is tight on figuring out any of this. But I think that that's where
Well, it has to be though, because we don't have, the 15th is when the bids are due. We're gonna have to, no matter what we do, it's gonna be tight. And getting a community, if we had to get a community vote, then it pushes it back another.
No, not a community vote, just
I
a
mean,
community
community
presentation.
presentation, I should say. That's gonna push, well, although that could be done at our meeting.
But is it,
technically.
but it's not a capital build. It's also a replacement, isn't it? So it's
That's
not,
true. It's under,
so let's just say hypothetically, it's 250,000. Well, how, I guess that's the question.
So I think
And I'm
let's,
not trying to bypass that because we probably do want to have a
of
meeting.
course we do.
let's schedule an interview let's schedule a workshop for what day you want to interview the vendor. So I can give all the vendors a date to hold if they're.
Okay, so their bids are due the 15th.
Yes,
We have not set dates for our meetings yet.
that is correct. You have proposed dates.
So that's being handled under item,
Right.
what I can't read Roman numeral.
Let's do me, can I get a motion to move swap 9 and 10?
Everybody in favor? Now, so we can go right straight into 10 now or 9. When do I have proposed, I think as part of this agenda, that instead of doing everything in meetings like the past couple of boards have done, that the most productive thing that my boards was we workshopped everything. We never brought something to a meeting unless it was an emergency that we hadn't spent time discussing among ourselves and with the public in a more informal venue where the audience is able to be recognized on issues that they are very concerned about, not where we interrupt each other, but where we have a workshop and that it's 48-hour notice on meetings so that we have a workshop 2 weeks before a meeting, 1 week before our meeting, whatever works, on the same day and at night.
And it helps alleviate Lauren and Jeffrey and their management team when it comes to having this massive agenda for our board meeting.
Yeah, we can do a lot of consent agendas.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead, Don.
And that we do, that we leave the really complex discussions. Now, of course, we can still discuss prior to a vote. That's part of the rules. But the discussions will not be as lengthy, which means even though we're going to devote extra time to a workshop, which can get long, we're going to be rewarded with a meeting that's going to flow far more smoothly and gets a lot more done, I believe, within the time allotted for the meetings. I would like to propose that move that we, in the process of setting meetings, we set an every month, like clockwork, board workshop that precedes the meeting before we vote.
Didn't we have that last year?
So we did, so.
Penciled in?
So we did them. We did the
Yeah.
whole workshops, but they ended up being about a singular
Single
topic.
topic.
No, I would like the whole agenda.
Sure, no, I agree.
So what we've proposed is maintaining the fourth Wednesday of the month as the board meeting, starting at 6 p.m. Putting appeals in front of them. Obviously, this is all up for discussion, as has been the tradition for the last couple of years. And last year and the year before, the second Wednesday of the month, so 2 weeks prior to your board meeting, would be a workshop.
Again, I would vote, I would ask for an evening. I have 2 jobs.
I'm fine with.
And I'm
evening
telling you
workshops.
that early meetings are gonna destroy my financial life.
So I think the challenge that I have with the workshop component, the optics from a resident perspective are not great if we come into a meeting and we just say, I, because then they don't necessarily know that we talked about it at a workshop. And I think it's different because when I had challenges with workshops previously, they were held during the day and no one could attend.
Well, that to me, that's a big part of this.
And I think that to me, there needs to be, the entire agenda being on a workshop, while I understand the logic behind it, that also requires management to understand and to have everything ready 2 weeks in advance, at that point in time. And so I don't know if that's a reasonable expectation or not.
Again, except in cases of emergencies where things are last minute. Of course, the meetings will still be the meetings. But the meetings, because we have set up a regularly scheduled event that everybody's aware of, it's as important or more important to residents than the meeting. Because this is a place where you can truly get input as opposed to just a couple of minutes at the beginning where everybody nods and says, yeah, thank you.
Right, because you speak about the topic during the topic
During the
discussion.
topics discussion, as opposed to just, okay, I come in, I get to speak, and I know you're going to ignore me from here on in.
I guess going back to Eric's point though, if we're doing it 2 weeks out, what's the realistic likelihood that we'll know what the board packet will look like?
Well, we can mandate that.
We
We
absolutely
should.
I know, but there's 2 weeks of a lot of stuff that could change.
Right, but if something new comes in, we deal with it at the
It
meeting.
just gets added to the
Gets
agenda.
added to the
But
agenda.
then you get to that gray area of it didn't come in until after the workshop. Are you waiting a whole month for the next
No,
workshop?
no, no, no,
Talk
no,
about
no.
it before you go to the director. so we get
I'm
the-
still saying that things can be added to the agenda. It doesn't change that, but it takes certain items like the complete discussion of every planting in the parks. Okay, this budget item is for these things and this is for those things. Those can all be discussed at a workshop. A resident can come in and go, my park looks like crap. Can you add this to it? And we'll go, look, we're doing this. We can discuss those things and say, we got a consent agenda for landscaping at parks X, Y, Z, and Q. Right.
And same with the truck was a good example, right? We got it on the agenda. It wasn't fully developed. If we had it in the workshop, we could have put the questions out there around, what's the maintenance cost? Let's take this back, get the information, fully develop it, not just give it to us right 2 days before the meeting, but have that, and then we're.
Because this, for example, feels more like a workshop right now.
Right. No, I agree. I think the piece for me to understand too is that, so two things that I want to be crystal clear on that I will not support. I will not support us voting on something at a workshop.
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to.
Right, we-
I understand, but I don't, but I unofficially, officially, whatever.
Anybody disagree with that?
I think that we should be okay with that it's a true workshop. I think the other piece to me too is understanding that there may be discussion items that come up during a workshop that then we need to provide, to Jared's point, if we tell management we want, we need these things handled 2 weeks prior, it just is what it is. That if then we have a question that comes up during the workshop session, we can then, now they have 2 weeks to figure out what it is, to figure out for the meeting, but that may impact, the ideas that we had during the workshop, pending the outcome of whatever we
Of
find
course,
out.
and we still have community comments nothing changes about the meeting. Literally nothing about the meeting itself changes.
My only concern, and I'm going to put this back on management, again, going back to the action plan, does that work for you? Because when we have the meeting once a month, that's when you can then actually start going out, doing what you need to do. You have kind of firm direction and consensus. If we can't vote during a workshop, are you getting, and that's, I guess, another question. Do we need another board meeting?
That's an understanding of, getting bids and doing maintenance and things, it's a revolving door.
Sure.
So a lot of times it's piling up things. If I can get it done for $5,000, then I can get it done under the operating budget and we're good and I don't need to wait. If it's truly a reserve item and it's $5,000 or under, then it's just going to sit there and wait for the next board meeting. If it's, a lot of times I'm waiting for bids to roll in for things. So it's always a revolving door and we'll get it on the soonest agenda that we can. So
And
it's really just working around things.
I agree that we shouldn't vote at workshops. Now I'm going to contradict that because I know that last year there was an issue frequently where management would get something they needed voted on and they would have to wait 5 weeks to do that. So I don't know if maybe we can vote on consent agenda items that don't need discussion, or if there's a way that things that need a vote just so that the process can continue.
Sure.
Nothing that needs debate. I completely agree. We shouldn't vote on that stuff, but there are some things you can elaborate on that.
I can give you a perfect example.
Right.
The HVAC at Spring Lake Pool went out in the closet where all the IT and electrical equipment is. If I didn't have it fixed immediately, we were going to risk damaging all that equipment and costing us a lot more.
You get a fan.
So I think the message is.
Luckily, the repair was under $5,000, so I could authorize it. But then it went to a board meeting to truly pull it out of reserves where it was supposed to be. But it's things like that.
Flexibility.
So, as a best practice, we'll try to avoid.
Again, and it's not going to change because, for example, let's use this month. Meeting's the 27th. Okay. Next month, the meeting will be the last week of April. So all we're saying is that 2 weeks prior to that meeting, unless it's an emergency or something that comes up like that, 2 weeks prior to that, we'd like to know the bulk of, not all, the bulk of what we're going to discuss at the next meeting that will definitely be part of the agenda. Discuss those things, get input from the resident, the homeowners.
Yeah, I think, I'm fine with that. And I agree with what you're saying. On
At night.
Splitting these things out. I think we just need to make sure that that's very clear when we post it.
Absolutely.
To make sure that they understand that these things will be voted on at this, and at the meeting.
Lauren's literally the one that knows, like, oh, I need to get this done quick. Well, she's the one that knows to put it on the agenda for the workshop. So we know that we're going to be voting on this.
Sure.
Plus that gives us, in this time when we do with the MPAG and all of these things have so much to do, it gives us 2 opportunities a month where we know we're going to be getting together.
Right.
That's what I just want to make sure we don't hinder your progress, whatever you need to do to maintain the community.
As long as there's flexibility, so if I have an emergent thing, then I can put it on the workshop agenda at the front end and just say, we need an action item here.
Yeah.
And that way,
I'm saying flexibility.
and that way also we don't have to call the special meetings and all, because
Right.
that's the other, we don't want to, we
And
know.
that way
the
also the
responsibilities.
community knows that every other Wednesday, there is an opportunity to vote, hear what we have to say, and to give us feedback.
Right.
Every other Wednesday. That's an awesome thing to know. You can then put it on the calendar and know, 2 weeks from now, I can go talk to that board.
Yeah, I guess just an awareness for all of us that we are comfortable with workshops that will be incomplete because they're making bids that come in after, things of that nature. So as long as we're comfortable that
They're,
we're not going to be
they're
talking about,
conversations.
yeah, that we're going to talk about some matters, but it may not be everything.
So we're doing the second Wednesday of the month and the fourth Wednesday for the meeting.
With some possible
Because
because of
and
holidays.
everything, Right.
Right.
But the good thing about Wednesday is there rarely is there a holiday on Wednesday.
So we would use the first workshop for the playground vendors conceivably.
Yeah,
What's the bid deadline for the playground vendors?
so the
14.
bids are due back on the 15th. I gotta pull my.
That Wednesday's the 13th.
Yeah, it's the 13th.
So what we
So
might have
we
to
would
do in
need
that
one.
case is move it to the 20th for now.
We'll do the third one.
Okay.
Can we do another day other than the third Wednesday of the month? Because that's bingo.
Oh,
Sorry.
Don't want to interfere with bingo.
One thing I wanted to say is, I would like us to keep it, if we're gonna do the second week and the fourth week, to keep it in those weeks, to have a meeting every week, and I mean, yeah, okay.
From your lips to, yeah.
Can we do it at Heritage
On the
Yeah.
20th?
on the
On the
20th?
20th, we could do it at Heritage if we want. Yeah.
We do the
Yeah, let's do it at Heritage.
Workshop?
We do have buildings.
No, I know,
Yeah,
and they're
cool.
programmed to record.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think as long as.
And that's because of the playground.
Okay.
Just a comment to tail off of Jared is, along with meetings, I think we should use special meetings as least as possible.
Yeah.
That's not something we should take, advantage of or anything of that nature, that if there's a special meeting, there better be a very good reason for it. If not, then let's find it in our schedule and it'll come either every other week based on our meeting schedule.
That's why it's important to have the workshop.
That's a lot of, every 2 weeks is so much opportunity for us.
So to that point, I would rather see it on the 25th, the 20th. So that
A
we are-
Monday?
Sure,
Yeah, we're moving anyway.
we're moving it from the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
You want a resident to go to 2 meetings in 1 week?
I don't want to go to meetings every single
Oh,
week
well,
for the
it's
next year.
No, it's just.
no, this is just for the 1 week.
No, I
Okay.
know, but
This is just for March.
What if we do it, what if we do it on the 18th?
That's the third Wednesday of the month, isn't that ARC?
Yeah, and she's only getting the stuff back on the 15th, so that Monday.
oh yeah, true. When will we even get it from?
You probably
Vigilance?
won't get
We
it till
might-
Vigilant until like the 19th.
Could we do like the 21st,
Gonna run it pretty close to the board meeting, won't it?
As long as
27th?
I get the packet out by the 25th in the evening and I can have the draft packet to the board.
Yeah, see,
as
doing it the
presented.
25th, that's my concern, is it's cutting it really close on the 48 hours.
And then there's covenants, isn't there covenants on the 21st?
Should it really be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday that? third week of the
Wednesdays
month?
are usually the nights where there's no committee meetings.
But well, either way, we can do the 20th or 21st at Heritage at the bare minimum. I can kick people out of 104 if we need to.
Friends,
20th?
board members,
Do you want the 21st so you have
That's
an extra
covenant.
day to review? Yeah, but I'm saying
We
an
can go
extra day to
Heritage.
review the,
I understand that, but we want all the board.
all
members
the board
to be
members,
present.
yeah. I am good with the 20th. I'm just gonna leave it there and hear from the rest of you.
Actually, can we do the 21st? Because March 20th is my daughter's birthday, so that might be, so.
We'll have a party.
Playground party.
So you have to understand that, like, when covenants, Jeffrey won't be there. I won't be there. Charles may not be there.
Sure.
We need to be all on board with the workshop, especially with the playground. We need to all be,
Yeah.
I am out of the country that entire week, so.
Oh,
I
okay.
can Maybe be remote. That's part of my request is if we're keeping things. in
What time
studio,
zone are you in?
A
I'm
different
in
one.
Paris.
Oh, so you're late at night.
6 hour
I've
difference.
done it before, so I'll show up, but
And the 25th is not good? That's AOC?
So we can do the 25th. It would give you time to
Monday?
review all the bids, and
Yeah, I guess.
Will that cover you legally?
I will put them all in the packet.
Oh,
And then we're
okay.
covered.
Yeah, you just put them all in the packet.
Yeah.
Because
All right.
the 25th is just a workshop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're not actually even.
It
voting
is
on
not a
it.
meeting.
So we're, yeah, that makes
So then,
sense.
yeah, 25th.
Monday, the 25th.
Yeah.
It's not the preference, but I think that's
Six
what
or
we have.
6:30?
Right now.
6?
oh, on that same note, I'd also like to do the Board of Appeals meetings at 5, not 4:30.
Oh, the later we can make them, the better it would make me.
I can promise that we'll get through them faster this year. We just need to,
Well, and the other thing is, Jared, I'm
Like
thinking the
5 hours.
meetings will be at least half an hour shorter.
great.
Uh,
I agree.
I really think they'll be a half an hour shorter, maybe even shorter, but in big cases, a half an hour shorter, which allows us to crank the appeals meeting to 5, please.
Yeah, we can do the
Okay.
appeals meeting.
Well,
So-
Lauren will also know by the amount of homes that are on the appeal meeting, if we need to, and if there's going to be an issue, she'll know that maybe we better do it at 4:30 instead of 5 o'clock, because one,
Again, yeah,
Yeah.
flexibility.
flexibility.
Okay, so
25th workshop.
I will send out an updated proposed schedule, but as it stands now, the second Wednesday of the month, other than holidays, is gonna be the workshop. The fourth Wednesday of the month is gonna be Board of Appeals at 5 and board meeting at 6. Workshops will also be at 6.
And do we need to tell Vigilant to prepare?
Already done.
Already done.
Just point
Wow.
of order, it's 11:30.
Mhm.
It is 11:30.
And
Good
Have a
point.
break and
Brief
time
recess.
for,
So I'll make the motion that we recess and we pick up at, well, we moved 9. So we pick up at 9.
Which dovetails nicely into lunchtime.
Correct. After the recess of.
I'll second the recess.
Okay.
Then we'll
Call the
recess.
question. Oh, do we?
No, it's
We
like
don't
an
vote on
adjournment. It's like an adjournment. You
Yeah,
just,
okay.
yeah, second, your turn.